What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Black Sheep Perspective. Man, this is season 2, guys. This is the second episode of season 2. The very first episode of season 2 was with my personal close friend, Combat Knight, promoter, very known fighter, an amazing guy whose name is Mitch Chamali. He was my first. That was our last podcast. And it was due to Mitch that I got this guest here in front of me today. I'm always reaching out to people and asking for interesting guests. And, I kind of give them a little list of the type of guests that I'm looking for. I'm not just looking for no tits and ass, and I'm not just looking for some drunken conversation. I love interesting topics. I love to hear stories. I love to meet people who have done something in their life, been through something in their life, experienced enough in their life so that they got something to talk about. There's way too many motivators out there who are like 20, 21, like what the hell you been through, Thanks for the pep talk. You haven't been through anything. So once I was done with Mitch and I was just talking to you, Danny, about that, I asked him, we did lunch and I asked Mitch, I said, hey man, why don't you help me get some good new guests, and I gave him the list of the things that I'm looking for, the qualities and the this and the that. And, he knows a lot of people, and you were literally one. I mean, he mentioned a couple fighters and I said, hey, I'm trying to slow down on the fighters. This is not an MMA podcast. It's not a fighter podcast. I love fighters. They all have amazing stories. But, I want to go in and out of different guests, different type of people. I don't want to misguide people to thinking that I'm going to have nothing but fighters here. So in that process, because that's the world that he lives in, he says, man, but I got this one fighter who has a dad, and he's just fucking awesome, man. I was like, awesome dads. That's a great start right there. So tell me a little bit about this dad. And man, he just broke you down very little. And I'm starting the podcast off with this story because Danny, Danny, welcome to the show, Danny Collazo.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Brother, we were just talking about it, and I said, hey, man, let's just save that part for the podcast. We already were talking, and there's already all kind of great things to talk about. I had to stop you on Costa Rica. We're coming back to that. I had to stop you on a couple of things because that's just all great conversation. But Danny, so to answer your question, that's how this came about. So Mitch talked about you, give me a quick little rundown. He said, yeah, man, he's been a lifelong firefighter. I'm already sold, man. Firefighters, I love that career. That's definitely a career that I could have chosen, and I know I've been passionate about it. I think firefighters have amazing jobs, difficult jobs, fun jobs, a lot of highs. The lows are, very difficult because I'm sure it involves death or injury or something, on the sad side of things. But an amazing job, an amazing career, and to meet somebody who's been a lifelong firefighter. So he gave me that quick breakdown. He put us on a text. We started chopping it up. I called you, and it was like a quick little bromance was bloomed.
Absolutely, brother.
So, Danny, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Born and raised, and let's just go from there, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, name's Danny Collazo. My father is a Puerto Rican who served in World War II and moved to Cuba right after, and that's where he met my mom.
Okay.
Lived there until he was forced out by Castro. Literally a 1 hour notice. Hey, you got to go. He had a jewelry business. He owned the Caddy, a color TV back in the days. Moved to Miami. I was born at Mount Sinai Hospital. And then I grew up in Hoffman Garden to these projects in Hialeah known as Ghost Town.
Ghost Town.
Yes, sir.
Where is that? I know people listening probably don't know the exact address, but how far up? Sometimes Hialeah, I start thinking that's the opposite side of Doral. That's how I look at it. But then I don't know if I'm wrong because when I take a different route through Lejeune, and if I go too north on Lejeune and then hit a left somewhere, now I'm in Hialeah again. And I'm just like, okay, wait a minute. What part of Hialeah is this?
Well, Hialeah, the part of Hialeah where I'm from is near Miami Lakes. I went to Hialeah Miami Lakes Senior High.
Okay.
And most people know this park called McDonald's Park. It's right there by the fire station, big old lake in the middle. And I grew up in the projects just east of that.
Okay. And so this is in what year? You were born here? And
I was born in 1970, and I moved to Hoffman Gardens, to those projects, in about 1978.
So at a young age, you got a little taste. I was born in 77, so you had me by 7 years. You were you got a little taste of the 80s, the cocaine days. It was tough.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Do you remember it a little bit? Being at, what were you, like 9 maybe?
I was like 11.
11. Oh,
so
yeah,
81.
It's a good memory then.
11, 10 years old. I remember I had a girlfriend, girlfriend of sorts at that age.
Okay.
Just a girl that lived in the neighborhood. We were friends. And we went to go eat at Di Piazza Pizza right there on 49th Street. And, man, right next door in that Chinese restaurant, there was an argument. and it was a drug deal. And it was a Cuban guy, classic Scarface looking guy, you know.
Oh,
He had the suit, he had some boys dressed up, and then it was a white couple. You know, they looked like farmers almost, you know. They had the cap, the big belly. They got into an argument, and right outside on the sidewalk, they killed the guy. They just shot him up. His wife ran, and it was one of those cocaine cowboy type things.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's I don't know how well the the image was for you, how close you were to it. Did you I know I've walked by a couple of bodies from not like I was involved in anything in it, just from random shootings, and the cops had to walk us through protected and all that, escorted. And you know, I'll never forget the image of this body with the bag over it. And we're talking about over 30 years. I'll never forget that image. I'm sure that had an impact on you as well.
Oh man, it was crazy because you know, even like when you walk by and see a body, but we were there even as a fireman. When we get called out, we get there after everything happened. But this was as it was happening. So everybody was jumping in the floor, chaos, a couple bullets hit the glass. Oof. And then once the cops showed up, they walked us out of the restaurant while there was no body bag yet. So everything was fresh. So it was like, whoa, it was very a touch of reality that we weren't really used to. Everything with movies till then, and it was pretty cool.
So that was obviously your first one.
Yeah, that was our first. Yeah, incredible experience.
So growing up in that type of area, neighborhood, you know, somewhat hoodish, but very Latin influence, and kind of in the Cocaine Cowboys towards the end of that era, how was it going to high school, and how was your upbringing?
Wow, you know, it was pretty cool in that particular projects. It was very diverse. Hialeah was still, I remember when I was growing up as a kid, then my dad would take me to see the Bruce Lee marathons in East Hialeah. There was a lot of white people, a lot of black, a lot of Hispanic. So it wasn't just majority Hispanic like it is now. So
I didn't even know that. I appreciate you correcting me on that. I had no idea. That's what it is now, and I thought that it's been going like that for a while. Okay.
It was crazy because I remember, and yeah, sure enough, a lot of white, very diverse. And then what was crazy is right at that 11-year-old mark where you get to that age in life where you could kind of go one way or the other in terms of and how you behave and maybe even getting into trouble as you naturally do as a human. But right in that era, this guy named MC Flex moved down from New York, and he was a guy that was in New York Street Masters, or in the New York, it was called the Floor Masters in New York.
Breakdancing, I assume.
Yeah, he ended up being one of the New York City Break original guys. He moved to the area, and he introduced breakdancing to us. And at the time, we were a lot into martial arts. My buddy Speedy Legs, Rick Fernandez, he was into Bruce Lee, so he was the older one, so we'd follow him. And when breakdancing came in, man, it was a whole new ball game.
And this is what, teenage years or going 15, 16?
11 years old is when it was introduced, and then 12, 13, 14, we're just teenage rock stars.
Really?
Yeah, oh, it was awesome.
And you really did feel like a little teenage rock star, like because you guys were the shit. You were breaking, and that was something new. Everybody digs it.
I can imagine it's kind of like in an MMA world, like how the guys that started doing jiu-jitsu before the UFC became famous.
Right.
And now it's famous, and they're already progressed into it, how they're looked upon. That was us. Like, we became breakdancers when it was so fresh that nobody had heard of it. And by the time it took hold, we were already skill-wise ahead of the game. Therefore, we were rock stars, man, you know.
Now, you had mentioned martial arts before that. Did that completely take you away from martial arts, or did you continue trying to balance out both?
It actually was included into it because a lot of like
breakdancing goes great with jiu-jitsu.
Exactly. A lot of the floor and your ability to know your body and how to control it on the ground. Because I wasn't a popper. I was a floor guy. I started doing a little bit of gymnastics and things like this. So all these things, the physical capability that martial arts gave you, the strength, in ways other than just weightlifting, it helped you. You know,
right.
You were an all-around athlete. It was awesome. Those times were great.
That's good. You got fond memories. You know, I don't know them. I can't say that people don't do that nowadays, but you don't hear often people talking about the great times they had during their upbringing. Like you don't hear. To me, I thought high school to me was like college. Like the way some people talk about college when they went to UF, whatever, just went away to college and it was party-ish, but they still, were educating themselves. They still did what they were supposed to and all that stuff. I felt like high school was a lot of fun for me, and I still, educated myself. I played football. I was blessed and honored to play with Kimbo Slice, which we call him Ferg. Shout out to him. His anniversary just passed. And I talk about it. But I feel like people don't talk about, man, I had a fun childhood. Oh man, I'll never forget doing this, and maybe it's because social media. Obviously, we had hinted towards that earlier in regards to your son. But it's sad that people don't get to talk about that the way you want to hear that, because you're saying it with a smile, like you're flashing back, like, yeah, man, we were doing it back then,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just such a different world. I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you do as well. You had to be home. You leave. You come back from school. You get on your bike and take off. And you had to be back before the lights turned on in the parking lot, or you start hearing all the yells. Alex, Danny, come on in. So to go out and explore, that just, even with my own children, it's a different world. There's much more threat or perceived threat. So that's just gone. I mean, we used to go and build, houses in the woods and, build ramps and jump over fires and things like this,
So that's all great things, especially coming up in an area like that. You were never tempted by the streets or anything of such nature. Did breakdancing help keep you away from that because you guys had your little niche, you had your own group, and really didn't, mess with that?
That's a very good question. What kept me away from the drugs, or like we talked about earlier, I grew up in the Cocaine Cowboy days. And I had family that lived that life of going to the clubs, and had friends that were too young to have a brand new Corvette,
right?
And to have all this jewelry. Yet there it was. And then I remember being in school, and you'd have friends that would put their books up, and they'd be snorting cocaine in class, and they were the kids of marimberos or drug dealers, right?
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, right in class in that time. So having the family, and my mom, when I grew up, she was an alcoholic, and she ended up, she committed suicide when I was young. And that plus family that had been into the drugs and things like this, when breakdancing came up, and everybody before the breakdancing, there was Miami Carol City, there was, I forgot, La Familia, a bunch of gangs.
Gangs, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when breakdancing
Latin Kings, Disciples.
well, they came right after breaking.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so during that era, that core group of, or that generation that started breakdancing, the fighting became more breakdancing. And hardcore battles and a lot of pride and a lot of competition.
Right.
You go underground, you come back, and you went to Beat Club, Castle Park, all these places. And the better you were, the more fame you had. And then as soon as breakdancing started fading, that's when like the Latin Kings, Folk Nation, Disciples, that took a stronger hold because, teenagers, there's things that catch a hold of your life. And these guys, you have to have a hobby.
The money, the power, the flashiness. Hey man, that's cool that you dance and all that, but this is what's hot now.
Yeah, and the bond. You got a bunch 10 guys wearing the same clothes, protecting or believing the same thing. And at the time, if it wasn't breakdancing, it was fighting. And some people grow out of it, some people don't. But I grew up, I was fortunate enough to have had some past experience that kept me out of that. I had a healthy fear of it.
Let me ask you, you mentioned, and I don't, obviously, it's I'm sorry to hear about your mother. It was obviously a long time ago. So your dad ended up, for I guess until he might have remarried, I'm not sure. You can update me on that. He had to raise you and your brother. You have a brother as well?
A sister.
A sister. So is she younger or older?
Older.
Okay, so he had to take care of you guys for the time being. I'm assuming he got help from, were your abuelos here?
No, basically, it was my old man and my mom. Everybody else stayed in Cuba. And then they got divorced when they got here with the hardships.
Oh, okay.
Right now, as a grown-up, we understand. Like, you could fathom leaving here today. Literally, somebody goes, hey, you got an hour to go. And you leave everything behind. So that stressor, I could imagine.
And then adapting over here and everything, of course.
Yeah. So they divorced when we were 2. And I lived with my mom, but my old man was always there. If I needed a glove, buy me a glove. I remember, he's old school, so he bought me a baseball glove. But I was lefty. It was a righty glove. I go, Dad, it's a righty glove. He didn't believe in returning things. He goes, oh, you're going to have to learn. So now I can throw righty too.
Are you ambidextrous now?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's actually pretty cool.
And my son is the same. I can't believe it. He does the same thing. Rights lefty, fights righty. He does a bunch of things ambidextrously.
So did you end up going, where'd you think your life was going to go before you even contemplated doing firefighting? Obviously, you're in high school. Were you trying to go to college and study something particular or what?
Man, Wes, I'll be honest with you. I was a dumb kid. I was going nowhere. after breakdancing, I started pole vaulting, you know, and then I met some white friends that became really cool and introduced me to surfing. And I started surfing, and that's it. When I started surfing, that's all I wanted to do. And living in Florida, you become like a meteorologist.
Anybody listening right now who I don't know, has been in Miami long enough, or at least South Florida, except maybe surfers, they must be thinking, what the hell are you surfing down here? There ain't shit to surf. Because obviously, you know, when we watch, I say we as in South Floridians who don't surf, when we watch surfing, we see it on TV. Big ass waves, Hawaiian waves, I don't know where else, you know, waves, Costa Rica waves. So we think surfing is, you know, you got to have at least a 6-footer or something. But evidently, when you know what you're doing, 3-4 footers, you guys got magic there. But you were saying earlier that no, you'd be surprised on a bad weather day, some good ones sneak in, huh?
I remember when I was a kid, everybody would go, "Tú vas a surfear con este huracán, ustedes están locos." You know? But really,
Best time.
Yeah, all you have to do, the surf potential's there. The consistency is not. So I've surfed days at South Beach where pros come from all over the country to surf. Like people from California, now with the invention of apps and this and that, they'll show up. But I've surfed days out there that people have been hurt bad. Just big 10, 12-foot barrels. It looks like you're looking at Hawaii. And then you drive north past like the shadow of the Bahamas. And then, so all my cars, like I have a 2017, 150,000 miles on it.
From driving your ass off just to go surf.
Yeah, you drive. It's an addiction. So when I got into surfing, anytime the surf was good, I'd drop everything and go surf because I live in Florida.
You literally told me on our conversation last week, so that everybody listening, he's not exaggerating at all. When we spoke one time on the phone last week, kind of like that initial, you know, getting to know each other and telling him what's up with the podcast. And he said, listen, dude, the only thing that would throw off next week's, you know, podcast on Thursday would be an emergency with the job, which that never really happens. I'm not working. They can get somebody else. I'm like, yo, family, yeah, no, they're okay too. Wes, the only way I'm not going to show up is if Wednesday I realize that Thursday is going to be an amazing day to surf. I might call you Thursday morning and tell you I can't make it. I'm like, well, at least you're being honest about it, dude. Yes. So you're definitely, you're my brother. He's always waiting for the right morning to say that it's going to be a good day to go spearfishing. And he'll hit me up a day in advance. Hey, light chop, 0 to 2 feet, whatever, going out Wednesday morning, 5 a.m. You in? No, dude, I got to train clients. But, you know, it's cool that, you know, he does that when you're passionate about that. You're waiting for that moment. And that's what it sounds like you have with surfing. Now, did that take you to want to travel to other places just to surf?
Absolutely. So as I got a little older, I started working at BJ's and a little bit of construction here and there, and I would save up some money. And I met a guy named Herbie, Beetlejuice, right?
Beetlejuice.
His hair was crazy like Beetlejuice.
I'm going to say that 3 times.
Oh my God.
There we go.
I met him. He was older, a Marine guy, and we saw a movie. We met at a theater for a premiere of a surfing movie. And never met the guy before. We hit it off. You know, we started jiving. Hey, man, you want to go to Costa Rica? Yeah. So we ended up going to Costa Rica. We lived out of a tent for like a month and a half, almost 2 months. And that was hooked because those were real waves, consistent all the time.
Did you quit your job to do that?
Yes, I couldn't.
Well, you weren't intending to, but then you ended up staying there long enough where it was automatic.
Yeah, I went from quitting BJ's to then we would go back and work a certain amount of time to save money to be gone for extended periods of time.
Man, you really are passionate about surfing.
It was just, you know, a dumb kid from Hialeah I had never been camping. I had never done any of these things. And surfing was a completely different world. And it's something that to this day, I'm by no means a good surfer. I just really love doing it. And it's so much fun. I call it chicken soup for the soul.
Look at that,
know?
Yeah.
You come home from work, you see something bad, or you're going through a divorce, or you're just tired, stressed. You go out there, man, at the end of the day, you're like, oh, what a great day. You know, the sun came up, the ocean was flat.
It's funny that you mentioned that reference of chicken soup for the soul. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't that term become famous or popular because of the book that was written called Chicken Soup for the Soul?
I'll be honest with you, never heard of the book.
No, I could have sworn that's how that became so popular. Kind of like when Windows for Dummies came out, and then they just did everything for dummies. You know, the whole line took over. Everything for podcast for dummies, bartending for dummies. Could have sworn there was a chicken soup for the soul, and then it started a trend. I'll look that up. Oh, by the way, shout out to Gus. For people looking at the podcast, whether you caught the last one with Mitch or not, Gus is no longer doing the podcast with me, but not on some negative reasons at all. I got nothing but love for Gus, nothing but praise for him. But the dude is just so busy training right now. You know, he's 1-0. He went professional. He's 1-0. He's about to fight again. I think another 2 weeks, a week and a half, 10 days.
Where's he fighting out of?
Titan. Titan is going to have another event towards the end of the month, and he's supposed to be on it, but shit happens. So he's just very busy. So to all the fans out there listening or watching, sure, one of these days Gus will always be a guest host with me because he was always my co-host. But the kid is just busy, training his ass off twice a day, sometimes 3. I know he's got someone special in his life right now that he's with, so spend some time with her. And he's very family oriented. So his makes it a little bit difficult for us to coincide with doing the podcast randomly. Like when you told me about doing it, and no, when Mitch came down, you know, I hit him up, said, hey man, you know, Mitch is finally gonna come down. We're finally gonna do this. We've been trying to do a podcast with Mitch forever. And he says, dude, I'm gonna be out of town. And I'm like, damn, man, see, this is the type of shit, you know, it's gonna happen very often. You know, I was like, nah, it's cool, brother, you know, do your thing. I'll see if I can co-host with somebody else. But the truth be told, I can do this all by myself, and I do like doing it by myself. And I have nothing with somebody being here. I think it makes it more fun. But I do love doing this because it's way more personal, and I get to, you know, stay in the zone of doing us and not be thrown off by anything else. So in the future there'll be co-hosts. But for anybody wondering, that's why Gus isn't here right now with us. Anyhow, if Gus were to be here, I would definitely have him asking him to pull something up on the TV. I didn't get ready with that today. The whole reference TV thing. So at this point, you're about what, 19 or 20 years old when you're doing all this, or a little bit older?
Let's say 20. Well, I started at 17. Traveling was more at 20.
Okay. And then when did it all settle that, hey, you need to get your life together and do something more constructive?
That's actually a pretty cool story. So at the time, I met this girl that was in high school. I had a huge crush on her. She had a crush on me. But, you know, things never aligned. Her dad was a politician. You know, I was the surfer dude, you know.
Oh, boy, yeah.
With the
last person he wants his daughter with.
Absolutely. So we met after college. She came back from college. She was going to FSU, and we hooked up for a Guns N' Roses concert at Joe Robbie on New Year's Eve.
Nice.
That was awesome. So we started going out, and her dad owned a factory that would manufacture clothes. So when her and I had like a year dating, I started working with her mom and the dad. A mom she became like a mother to me. I love her to this day. I'll never stop loving her. She taught me how to cut the clothes, and her and I would sit there and talk all day, and we'd throw, you know, a 16th of an inch thick cotton, you know, the stretch of like 50 feet until it stacked this high. And then I would come and I would cut, we'd put a pattern, and I would cut. We would make those suits para la viejita de Hialeah. Those little outfits and stuff.
Right, okay.
So I'd be there, and then I'd go to her. Her name was Telita. I go, Telita, the surf's going to be good tomorrow. Please give me the keys to the place. I promise I'll come back. I'll finish everything. It'll be ready in the morning, but I got to go surfing. So what they realized was that I was a really hard worker, but when the surf would get good, I would get crazy. So her dad's like, I think my daughter wants to marry this guy. So he kept trying to search type of careers.
But so at this point, you already been with her for a little bit of time.
Let's say a year.
Oh, okay. Well,
okay. In that age, that was a long time, right?
Yeah, to me, that's a long time.
Right. So he says to me, he goes, one day a fireman comes in, or a company of firemen come in to do a little inspection of their factory so it can, in case there's a fire, they know how to operate in there and stuff. And he looks at me, he goes, how about firefighting? I said, I don't know, let's see. So he starts asking the guy questions. The guy goes, you work for 24 hours, you're off for 2 days, every 3 weeks you get 5 days off, you get this type of pay and benefits.
Damn, Dad was thinking with his head. See, remember we talked about earlier, I said, if when I train a client, I'm not going to give you unrealistic expectations. If I know you're hooked on cookies, I'm not going to say completely cut the cookies out because I know you won't. But let's find some healthy cookies. Well, he didn't try to tell you got to stop surfing and get a corporate job. He knew how passionate you were about surfing, and he really thought it out and said, hey, I know my daughter's going to be with him. How can I help this situation out where this dude can keep doing what he does but get a little bit more responsible? damn, kudos to him. He thought it out.
Incredible, right?
Yeah,
the
man.
way the chapters in life, how things. My old man was un guajiro. He was a bookie when he came from Cuba. He was a bookie. He had to make ends meet. He worked for the Ford company, so he never went to college. So he didn't have that mentality. This man, he had that mentality. He was playing. He was a master of chess in life. He was always thinking 4 steps ahead, right?
And isn't that jiu-jitsu? Don't we mention that all the time?
Absolutely.
What's up, folks? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Black Sheep Perspective, Season 2. If this happens to be your first time watching or listening, please take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so that you don't miss another episode. Once again, thank you everyone out there for all the support. And a big shout out to Infused Wellness. During these difficult and weird times, especially while trying to balance my responsibilities in life, I just was not able to focus on keeping my body as healthy and energized as I wanted it to be. And I'm sure many of you out there go through the same tough times while trying to deal with what life throws at you as well. So I reached out to my man Alex at Infused Wellness. They provide hormone optimization, custom vitamin IV therapy, peptide therapies, weight management, anti-aging medicine, hair restoration, skincare and aesthetics, and yes, folks, sexual functions. So listen, they customize programs tailored to each individual's needs, and the results are guaranteed. Alex and everybody out there working for Infused Wellness, thank you for helping me get by these rough times and making me feel the way I've always wanted to feel. Now let's get back to the podcast.
All right, so him being that life chess player, he said, you know what? I think this may be good for you. And we started looking into it. And, you know, a lot of us, what I saw from my perspective growing up, my old man, you have to do something, you have to go to school, but there was never a real plan. And guys come up to me all the time and say, man, I want to be a fireman, but I hear it's hard. And the truth, it is very hard, but it's not impossible. You just have to have the right plan. So I figured out schooling, you have to do A, B, and C. I did A, B, and C. All right, now I have to go above and beyond and do, you know, D, E, F. And within 2 years, I got hired in the fire department. I cut my long hair, you know.
Oh, you didn't tell me you had long hair too.
Oh, man,
of course.
I had that crazy long curly hair. I used to go to the kitchen club at South Beach, and I'd have it braided. I'd wear the bandana and the overalls with no shirt. I was a mosher. It was crazy.
All out.
All out.
So here you are, and then you got the job? I mean, did you have to go to the academy or no?
Yeah, so we went to, at the time, it was EMT school, fire academy, and then paramedic school. That took about 1.5 years. And then at the time, when you would apply for a fire department, you know, you had to take a written test, score within a certain amount, like let's say 90% and above.
Okay.
Those guys would get called back, guys or girls, they get called back. And then out of those, now you interviewed. And because at the time that there was like a hiring freeze, there'd be 1,000 applicants and they'd hire 2, maybe 3 guys. So you had to be real persistent. You'd have to go above me and you have to go, okay, I'm going to drive an hour in any direction. I got hired in West Palm Beach, although I lived in Miami Lakes at the time.
Right.
And 26 years later, here I am still doing it.
For the same West Palm Beach Fire Department?
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
26?
26 years.
So you told me earlier you were 51, 50?
50.
Obviously, well, you know, I'm still getting down this retirement thing. You can retire at a certain age, but you can also retire once you hit a certain amount of time in a company?
So what they do is your end retirement is a percentage of your highest 3 years, let's say. Every department's slightly different, but let's say there's an average percent of your salary that you're going to get yearly. Every year you work a percentage, for example, for us it's 3% to get that percentage. So if the max is, let's say, 90, right? Every year you work is 3% towards that 90. Once you get to that 90, you can work up to 5 more years to get a different benefit, a cash benefit to put away. And so in that amount of time, I've worked up to that. I'm getting close. I got about 4 years maybe.
So when you hit, pretty much 30 almost, they force you to retire, at least from there, because they can't keep raising your pay?
I wouldn't say force. I would say some departments, working no longer benefits you whatsoever. You're just now risking your health.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's a very stressful job in ways that accumulate, like lack of sleep, that constant awareness of, you know, is a tone going off, or that mentality of being aware that as you get older, it starts to fatigue and wear on you. And that's actually why a lot of firefighters die of cancer, not just the chemicals, but that lifestyle, lack of sleep, the stress of what you see, this kind of stuff, the readiness, the state of readiness at all times.
When did you have that first call that really hit you hard? That first one that made you maybe not second guess firefighting, but maybe you can say you second guess. Holy shit, can I keep doing this? Because I knew I was gonna see that. I heard about this, but then it happened. How long into the career? And I don't want to put you in any predicament of something that you don't want to recollect, especially details. But how long into your career until an experience happened as a firefighter where it really hit you hard, hit you home, made you think about life, made you think about, do you want to continue this?
I guess where you work, that moment can come either 10 years in, 5 years in, 1 day in. And I worked in a department where there was a lot of diverse calls, like low income, high crime, high drug. It was a very diverse neighborhood or community. So very early on, we went to a lot of shootings and car accidents on 95. I remember one where there was a Cadillac was crushed and the person was still inside and the car caught fire. Ooh. But being so young at the time, kind of like fighting, what was crazy was when we went to school and you learn these things, that's textbook, right? That's classroom. Now applying it to real life, something that separates the people that are able to do that job is the ability to perform those skills that you learned and the eagerness to do the best that you can in those moments and stay calm without fear, without being affected, right? The only thing, the rule was never personalize what you saw. Ese viejito looked like my grandfather. He was wearing the same shirt that my brother has, right? And that moment came to me one time when, and it wasn't even something visually. It was more so I had a daughter that was born with a heart problem. She died 3 months in. And my first day back thank you. It's one of those things, medically, I'm able to reason it, rationalize it, right? But my first day back to work after like 4 or 5 months off, there was a lady, she wanted to commit suicide. And it was Christmas. You walk in, it was a beautiful house, Christmas lights, and the outside looked like a classic Christmas perfect setting.
Right.
As soon as you walk in, it's a different story. The husband was crying. You could smell alcohol in the air. You walk into the room, the lady's freaking out, yelling, cursing God. And we get paid to observe and quickly assess what's happening and what's truth and what's not, and get down to the problem. And she was freaking out, and I know her. She goes, "You don't know what it's like." I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You don't know what it's like to have God take a child from you." Ooh. And she points, and I turn around. There's her son, who was 3 years old. He had just died from leukemia. So that was the first
sitting there, laying there. He was in the.
No, he died. She was.
But he was already in the house. Oh no.
It was a picture of him. She
Okay.
Yeah. So she was just grieving this incredible pain, angry at God, angry at life, just didn't want to live. And it was my first day back from my experience. So that was the first time
with losing your son or your daughter.
My daughter, that I personalized something. Oh, and it was a rough one, but you learn to to deal with that because you reason it. And I talk about, you get home, you talk about it with your family, talk about it with other firefighters. You express that pain and those emotions. You don't bottle them in. But I see so many horrible things, horrible.
That's tough, man. I mean, like, seriously, Danny, that's, shout out to all the first responders, for everything that all of you guys do. I know that there's a bunch of us out there. I say a bunch of us because unless you're a firefighter or a law enforcement who's really connected to a firefighter, you don't know all the ins and outs about firefighters. You don't know the details, much like, we don't know the details of other careers unless, you got some type of attachment to it. For those of us who are oblivious to firefighting, you hear firefighting, you think, well, where's the fire at? You think, we're siren, ladder, pull out the water hose this big ass flame down, and hopefully no one's hurt. What most people don't think about, I imagine so, is the amount of savings and rescuings that you guys do on so many scales. And working South Florida or West Palm Beach area, in the area you're talking about, how different is it with what you guys deal with compared to whether the next county over, a few cities north, let's say Central Florida, let's say North Florida, because they have more brush, more wood, older homes. I don't know. Is it that much of a difference from what the firefighters go through? Are they fighting more fires, or all of you guys have a good, substantial amount of rescuing people, dealing with trauma, dealing with things that the doctors and the nurses are going to end up taking care of, and less actual fires?
It's a good question. Every community is unique. For example, if you worked in New York, the fires, those buildings were built, a lot of them in the 1800s, right? And there's a lot of construction upon construction, and they're in bad condition. So their fires are not only big, but they're very complicated. So they write the books on how to do it, because a lot of their people get killed from it or die as a result from it. If you work in California in the mountains, well, now you write the books on the forest fires. Right?
Oh, God, they got it bad order.
Yeah. Us down here, we're very diverse. You had asked me earlier what type of paramedic do you need? Well, in South Florida, because we don't have the amount of fires that New York does, we've adapted and become stronger paramedics. But there's such a diverse things that we do. I tell my kids all the time, I go, you know what we do? Imagine if right now a dinosaur would come flying in, shooting lasers, right, at people, and a meteor hit, and there's a hole in the ground, and people are running away from the meteor, and this dinosaur is zapping people away to death with their eyes. Who are you going to call? You're going to call 911, and the fire department's coming. In other words, we have to be so diversely trained to handle any situation.
Right.
This whole COVID thing, right? People don't think about it, but now here we are. This is what we get paid for. It was like this for the Ebola. It was like this for the swine flu, AIDS. We respond. You call 911, we're the only entity that will respond to your house within 6 to 8 minutes to help you. Not even police can do that, because they have other things, for shooting for sure. But in terms of, you just call and go, 911, I'm having chest pain. We're the only service that exists that are in your house within 6 to 8 minutes. Boop. So that's what we do, and we do a little bit of everything.
Now, you being in it for so long, I imagine, hoping, you've been promoted several times, or how does that work in regards to, okay, you're a firefighter. Obviously, you're a green thumb, you're a greenhorn, whatever you guys call it. You're new, you're a rook, 6 months, year, whatever that is. And now you're basic, you're normal. When does it change? When do your duties change? I know you have I don't know if you have a sergeant, but I know you got a captain and lieutenant. Do you have a sergeant as well?
No, we have a lieutenant, captains, chiefs.
Okay. When do the duties change in regards to the level of activity of being on that truck, going on that run, answering the calls within 6 to 8 minutes? When does that responsibility change, or does it?
It's up to the individual. Traditionally, just like fatherhood, or just like having a younger brother, or as a coach in the MMA world, some people have more of this sense, but it's our responsibility to pass on what we know. So when you become a firefighter, your initial job is to listen and learn, not talk. Once you've learned, then people get to learn your personality, and we joke around. But the reality is, you learn your position to the best of your ability. Then it's your duty to learn more. So then you take all these classes, you get your degrees, you take specific classes on how to become a driver. Boom, become a driver. You test and compete to become a driver. You don't just test and you get it. You have to compete against everybody else. You have to score high enough. If you earn it, then you learn that job. So on and so forth until you get up to the position of captain and later on chief and things like this.
And being there that long, have you gotten to that position yet?
Yes, I became a battalion chief in 2017, but I have to honestly say my favorite time in my career was when I was a captain.
Really? Why is that?
As a battalion chief, I am not management from the very top or administrative, and I am not a firefighter. I get called when there's a bad scene. I mitigate. I help. I'm kind of like an orchestrator. You do this until we mitigate the problem.
Okay.
As a captain, I was in it. So I would teach as we go. I remember being in a house fire, and you turn around and you look at your new guy or girl, and you go, "Hey."
So you're leading by the front line
Yeah,
as a
you
captain
go,
still.
"You see that door right there? This is how you break that." Or, "You see that window? This is how we're going to get out, blah, blah, blah. This is how you open this type of door. This is how you throw a ladder. This is how you would do to save somebody. Or in a medic call, this is what you do." And then those calls would inevitably come out. Or while you were in them, you'd learn these things. So you felt more as a company, as a crew, kind of like the military. You're in, on the front lines, or you're on the back strategizing.
Right.
When you're here, there's a different bond than when you're here. So that was my favorite time.
I was mentioning earlier off camera about the competitive aspect of the firefight games. I don't what is it called? The
Combat challenge.
that's what it's called, really? Okay. Firefighters go against themselves and they also go against cops, or no?
So there's different competitions. There's the first responder games, which is more of a bonding thing. There's everything from bowling to jiu-jitsu to archery and things like this. And those are, you compete as a whole for pride, but it's mainly fun.
County departments against each other, or West Palm versus Broward versus Miami, or how's that go?
Depending on the sport, like I used to play hockey in the Firefighter Olympics. It was called that back in the days. So back then it was West Palm, and then there'd be Palm Beach County, Hialeah, all these teams. So then it was department versus department. But if it was an individual sport, let's say if it was archery, you work for West Palm, but it was, Rick Dory, he was the #1 archer in the world at the time in the firefighter and police games and things like this. So there's different types of games. The combat challenge, that's a young man's game. That's like CrossFit.
Right.
You do basic skills that you would use, and that was actually a test that you had to pass to get onto the fire department. If you pass that test, they give you a card, and now you can apply. So you go upstairs in your full gear, carrying bottles, and hose on your shoulders, and you come back down, you pull rope, and then you hit something with a hammer, and then you drag a body. So there was these key elements that you needed to become a fireman or firefighter, and then they utilized that as a competitive thing. And the times are amazing. I mean, people shoot through that in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen them on TV, and I'm like, wow, this is. I didn't know what was going on, and it was those ladders. What do those ladders weigh?
It depends on which one, but the 24-foot ladder, which is the average one, weighs like 25, 30 pounds.
Now, but what people don't understand is trying to carry that.
Maybe more.
And no, I think it's probably more, but trying to carry that when it's so long and balancing it out and then putting it up the way they did and climbing up with the speed. I mean, it's amazing. If you haven't seen it, you guys got to look up these firefighter games that he's talking about, and even the combat part about it. It's really, you don't see firefighters that are out of shape. You might see a little pudge or something like that, but most of them are in pretty decent shape. Now, whether that's because on their off days they're working out because they have the 48 off, or because they know they have to maintain a certain shape. I wish, and I'm not talking shit about officers, especially during these times. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to make officers feel like anything else than what they're already going through. But officers, you do see fucking shitload that are not in good shape at all. And it's bad. It's bad and it's sad and it's not a good look. I mean, when I was working for the UFC gym, I'm not calling out any names, but we had about 3 or 4 coaches that were badly out of shape. Now, you don't have to be an Adonis. You don't have to be thong ready for the summer, but you have to look the look. You're not gonna let a dentist mess with your teeth and his shit's all crooked and rotten. It doesn't go like that. So it's great to see that these firefighters are definitely taking care of themselves from a fitness aspect more so than not. And it makes me want to ask you this. Now, I'm not trying to stir anything up, but you've been in it for so long. You've seen the struggle that everybody goes through. How much more difficult is it, in your opinion? I hope you think it's a little bit more difficult for women to go through the same process.
Wow. When I first started, much more difficult. I was an instructor for a good 8 years. I had women. My lieutenant was a woman in my station and a firefighter. I think nowadays with the CrossFit and things like this and the laws, it's not difficult. It's actually, I would believe, easier to get on. What's harder is to prove yourself. I grew up Hispanic in Hialeah. My dad and I would go to rent apartments when we were little. there were many Hispanics, and we were told we don't rent to Hispanics, right? At that point, it's my choice, my dad's choice to teach me. You stand on who you are, and you're proud, and you keep going, and you earn what you're gonna get, regardless of any obstacles, or you can let it beat you down. Women are the same in the fire service. If you get on knowing, confident that you're capable of doing the job, that you're willing to do a good job, and you stand on that rather than on feeling like maybe it's harder, then that can affect you negatively. But I can tell you, we have firefighters that are women that can out hustle, outlift, outlast many of the guys.
I've known 2 of them, and they were badasses. They're not badasses. But here's my question now. Follow up. When they have the CrossFit games, just an example. Yeah, everybody has to do the jerk, the snatch, the kip, whatever. I can't even name all those things. I don't follow it like that. It's pretty dope, but I don't follow it like that. But it's less weight for the women. It's less reps or less whatever for them because of their stature, because they're women, because of so on and so forth. If, completely asking in the blind, if part of this process to get into the firefighter, to become a firefighter, if part of it is you have to pass this obstacle course, you have to pass this physical test, and it involves carrying a 80-pound dummy over your shoulder for a good half a mile before you blah, 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 blah. For the women, is it a 40-pound dummy? In respect to their stature, their size, their common ratio compared to a man? Or is it, no, sweetheart, it's still the 80-pound dummy that you have to put over your head? That's a question that I have. Again, not knowing what you guys go through and what is it that the test that you take. And I've actually helped personal train a lot of firefighters to get them ready. Never a female, though. Never a female. The one female that I knew who was in the gym at the time, she's a monster. Like, she will outdo monster, like in a good way, but she killed it. She would power lift, she would CrossFit, and then she would do cardio, and she'll even do kickboxing. So what do you say? What is that like?
I remember in the early 90s or in the mid 90s when I was trying to get on, there was a news segment on Channel 4 News.
Oh.
And there was a controversy that they were lowering the times, or that they wanted some times lowered to separate men and women candidates. And I remember that there was a lot of people arguing. It was viral at the time, I guess.
Right.
And the news lady went there to do a report, and she decided to do it herself. And she was in good shape. And she passed what was considered the man's test at the time with the the actual weight, the actual time, and said, with no experience. And she said, I passed this, so I don't understand why other people could pass it. I will say this. Those tests, they were standardized, and they were adapted.
Favoring for the man at the time.
No, I'm saying after.
Okay.
The tests were standardized, and there was some adjustment to times, right? In the end, on the job, it's unrealistic to say that you're going to do that for that amount of time, all those things, and that specifically would rule you out to be able to be a firefighter. The fat guys or girls or the people that are slightly out of shape, experience is key in the fire service. So if I have a woman, I don't care what she did there in the test. I don't care if they lowered the time. She shouldn't either. What I care is now that she was working with my truck, that when we train, she can not only just do what she's supposed to, but also think in the midst of all this chaos, to be able to think logically and do what she has to do. So my firefighter, she was 5'4". I called her the wildling from Game of Thrones, the wildling.
Okay.
She was a savage. I would tell her, throw that ladder. Maybe in her test, she had to do it in less time than the men. But when I throw that ladder and there was a fire and we had to go into that room, she'd throw it and be up there ready to go in no time.
You didn't care about the test. That's it. She did it when it needs to be done.
That's it. In our line of work, it's a lot like that, like the movie Colors, where Sean Penn asked his lieutenant. And the guy says, you know what? Let me tell you a story.
The bull?
Oh, yeah. The bull
I love it.
The father bull and the son bull. Hey, Dad, let's walk down and screw one of them cows. He says, run down and screw one of them cows. He goes, no, let's walk down and screw them off.
I love that. That is so awesome. Yeah.
Right? That is so profound. It's so wise.
What a great old school reference, man. Colors,
right.
great movie, old school movie, great reference in regards to that story, that joke that the captain has said or the sergeant has said. And even who was that actor?
Defoe.
The old man.
Defoe,
yes, it was him. Did he pass?
No, he's still going.
Last I saw, he was like fishing on a boat. Like he's a big fisherman, and he might have even been in Costa Rica. God, that's a topic we keep bringing up, Costa Rica. No, but yeah, man, those are all great valid points, and I think that's pretty awesome that reporter that you're talking about did that. You know, kudos to her for doing that and pretty much setting the bar right there. Like, hey, nobody should have an excuse. I'm doing it as a reporter in pretty good shape. Everybody should be able to do it. Those of you going for it. So anyhow, so let's jump a little bit more forward now. So at some point, I know you had gotten married to the first wife that the dad helped you get the job. Well, he helped suggest it and so on and so forth. So you had a first wife, and did you have a kid with her or no? No. Okay. You have 2 kids now.
Yes.
Okay, and we're gonna definitely talk about both of them. So I don't want your who's the second one?
My daughter.
Your daughter.
Her name's Kristen.
Kristen, when you hear this, don't get mad at me, okay? It's just that we were talking about Danny Jr. earlier, so we'll move up to that. But how did you meet your wife, the mother of your kids right now? Is she a firefighter? How did that happen?
Well, it's funny. She's not Danny's mom.
Okay.
In terms of, I've been divorced twice, and this is my 3rd marriage. They say you're not a fireman until you lose half your stuff at least once.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, so I've lost it twice. Nah, but it's just life. It's the incredible chapters of life. My wife now, who is like more than just a mother to my kids. I met her, actually, we dated when I was going from 7th grade to 8th grade. And she was going from 8th to 9th, so I called her my cougar, right? So she was older than me back then. 1 year was huge. So we dated back then. I was a break dancer. I was a teenage celebrity. I had way too many girls lined up and ready to go that I said, you know what? You're going to high school. Let's break up. And we met again later, 30 years later. A buddy of mine went to lunch, and he calls me and goes, hey, I went to lunch, and this girl, the conversation came up, your name came up, and she asked, when I said your name, she said, Danny Collazo, Frosty Ice. That was my breakdancing name. And when he said that, I go, Yvonne Fernandez. And that's my wife. And he goes, how'd you know? I go, I had a lasting impression on her. I loved her very much. So she had 2 kids. One of them was named Danny. And I always mess with her to this day. I told her, you named him after me. So we're a Brady bunch. She had her 2 kids, Danny and Alex. And I had Danny and Kristen. And we've been together 12 years. And that's the family we have now.
So Danny and Kristen are from the second marriage?
Yes.
Okay. And now you guys got a Brady bunch?
Yes. An incredible Brady bunch. Characters. All of them are cool.
What's up, crazy world? You got to be a little loose upstairs if you're following us. But if you're not following us, what the hell are you waiting for? Listen, go ahead, stop what you're doing, pause. You can come right back to this. I want you to subscribe, go to YouTube. I want you to go to iTunes. I want you to go to SoundCloud. I want you to just find any platform that we're on. Follow, listen, show your love and support. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, so now, as we see it, we are a 6-person strong family, each of them with their own unique characteristics. My wife's an incredible cornerstone of our family. She's the good cop. I'm the bad cop.
What does she actually do, by the way?
She is a merchandiser. She works for Perry Ellis. She designs lines of socks for men, like dress socks. So Christmas is coming or fall, and she's always designing all these socks. So she starts from production all the way to help sales and then to making sure it gets put on the rack. So when you go to Macy's,
it's pretty cool, man. She's behind a lot there.
Oh, she's a badass. She started working in this business when she was 15 to help her mother out. They lived 4 of them in one apartment. She went and got a job, and she's been doing this work ever since.
So you had mentioned it was so now it's 4 of them, 2 of you guys, 2 from her, 22 and 21,
28 and 22,
28 and 22, and then yours are. Danny is 21. He just turned it?
Yep.
When did he turn 21?
January.
Okay, we're going to come right back to him. And then you have Kristen, who's
18.
Did she graduate? Or is this the year?
Man, these
weird
2020.
2020. Qué
She
locura.
graduated. They were state champions in her sport. They did color guard, which is and they throw swords and rifles and flags and they dance. It was awesome. And they would go. They always end up every year in Dayton, Ohio for like the nationals. And this was the first time that my wife and I have been able to buy a ticket to go see her for that last one. Everything was canceled. Prom, grad night.
And she got to compete though?
No, they cut all that early. So they had it, they got it rough for those moments in life that you kind of always look back to. But she's so sharp and strong. She's going to go to FIU and then wants to go to become a doctor.
Awesome.
She's a little badass.
She knows exactly a doctor, or she knows specific surgery. She knows what.
She's playing around with it and she has time.
Let it
which
develop.
She knows. She started off with, first she wanted to do anesthesiology and then.
That's great. That's what my brother was doing.
I told that was me. I was
Pimp ass job,
Yeah.
bro. Skick scuck, pay me.
I'm out. Yeah, exactly. But she wants to be now. She's obstetrician or family. She doesn't know, but she knows she wants to become a doctor. She's got 4 years to play around with
Right.
the exact field, but she's
Certain
working
things
toward
will develop for her. Certain things will pop up. Experiences, whatever it is, and then it'll hit her. Mine is an actual relationship. I love to say, try never to get married to anything, because if you don't know how to walk away from something, it can be 10 times more detrimental to you than the whole aspect of, I gotta hold my ground, I gotta stay loyal, I gotta know I've been here since day one. So that's killing you. That's horrible. That's negative. But whatever it might, and that's relationships, jobs, career choices. Be willing to walk away and adjust. And as long as she's willing to do that, man, the medical field is loaded with so much, especially, unfortunately, where the world is at right now. Who knows how many different ways they can use her help in the future. But good. That's great to hear. I mean, wow, Danny, it sounds like everybody's on point, man. You finally, third marriage. So somebody might, look at this like, well, shit, the third time, you hope you get it right. You know what, dude? I think that just supports that. And I'm not saying you did. Maybe you'll agree with it. I might say this every other podcast. People get married way too young. I know when it comes to religious beliefs, we're kind of swayed into doing that for whatever reason that exists. I don't want to get deep into that. But I think that it is. I think it's very bad advice from parents to convince or sway their kids to get married before they're 30. The reason I say that is because it's pretty simple. You didn't know who the hell you were before 30. You didn't. And if you did, if you had a really good grasp on who you were, where you were going, type of person you are, and there's very little that's going to change it, you were advanced and you couldn't be any older than 27, 28. And you went through some shit. You went through something, you experienced something, you went through something. It's the only way you got there. Otherwise, there's just a growth process that has to occur before you experience enough to be mature enough to make a decision that can be considered wise enough. Getting married at the age of 22, 24, you still have a growth process. And it's hard to grow into the same thing together. You end up growing apart, not because you dislike each other. It's just your passion grew this way, your job took you that way, your new found this. Well, things happen. So I hope in the future, and anybody listening, man, wait till you damn 30 or so before you really pull that trigger. But hey, guess what? It got you here. And something that I say when people like to point out, well, you're still single and you're 43. I think I told you I was 42. I keep forgetting I just turned 43, bro. I forgot. It happened in June 15th.
No offense, but that's a sign that we're getting out there.
Man.
You're thinking you're
My
younger
birthday
than
just
you-
passed. My birthday just passed.
Happy birthday, brother.
Thank you. But my whole argument towards that is, well, shit, look at Danny. He found the right one at a later age. He found the right one at a later point in his career because you were mature. You went through the fire. You realized, okay, I thought I was ready for that, but I wasn't. You know what? I wasn't at this point in my career where I wanted to be. Things of that nature. So I definitely think I look forward towards my future, significant other, because I know it's going to be the right one. It's not going to be flirting back and forth with things I don't know. I know where I'm at. Whoever that would be, they'll know where they're at. So now I want to talk to the topic about one of your kids. So Danny Collazo Jr., you're wearing this dope-ass shirt. I wish I would have told you if you had an extra one to bring it to me. That is a great shirt. It's called The Devastating Kid, and then there's a picture of Danny with his hands up, and it says Danny Collazo on the bottom, as you can see right there. And so Danny is a 8-0. For those of you guys who don't understand the terminology, 8-0 means 8 wins, 0 losses. That means he is undefeated as an amateur MMA fighter. So that is a very difficult thing to do anywhere. Be undefeated. The minute you hit 3 or more fights, if you're undefeated, that's impressive. 5-0, that's very impressive. Anything past that, wow, dude. To do that where there's a bunch of killers and a bunch of skilled fighters, which is South Florida, that's even more impressive. The kid is 8-0, and he just turned 21 in January. That's amazing. That is what people like myself, I would say reporters and fight enthusiasts, and they look at the Dannys and we mentioned Elvin and the Elvins, and they're like, ooh, that's going to be that dude in the future. That's going to be that GSP. That's going to be that George Masvidal, who's I can't wait to see fight this week. Oh my God, we'll talk about that later. I'm too excited for that one. But you have a kid who's kicking ass and is showing a bright future for a real MMA superstar. And he's doing it right here in the heart of South Florida. Walk us through that, because even though you had a little bit of a tough upbringing, you've seen a lot of shit as a paramedic, as a firefighter, as back in the day, Cocaine Cowboys, all that stuff. It's a whole nother ballgame when you're attached to your creation and you're seeing this creation of yours that you just want the best for, and healthiness and prosperity, and you're seeing him do some savagery. And no matter how good he is, because it happened in his last fight, he can be clipped, knocked out, choked out, injured at any given point, even training up to the fight, much less during the fight. Walk us a little bit through that. How's it been being a father of a up-and-coming fighter? When he started, how'd you feel about it? How'd you take it? When did you really grow into it? And when did you see yourself like, bro, fuck it, I'm your biggest fan. Let's go do this. I'm wearing shirts. I'm screaming. I'm drinking. I don't know what it is. Take us through that a little bit.
It's been amazing. We're truly blessed. It all started off, he's a kid. I was a divorced dad, and I was actually with my present wife at the time. And we'd been through all kinds of sports, and, they were messing with him. They would pick on him verbally, and when he started jiu-jitsu, which he started an American top team over there in Miramar, under Bruno and Chris Navarro and Wilson Gouveia were the...
Was Mike Rios there at the time?
No, he came when they were out at the Hiatus and Pines in that new building.
Okay.
But we were still there when Mike Rio first came on.
Okay.
But and it was something that just clicked naturally. It was amazing as a dad. You put your kids in all kinds of sports, and he just happened. His first tournament in jiu-jitsu was like 2 weeks in, and he won it. And then he went for this next one at a month in, and he won that. And then his next one, so on and so forth. And he would just, because he'd win them, they'd make him go to a higher division. And then he was heavy, so he'd have to go against bigger kids. And it was amazing. Like, the jits for him was very natural. And then just through life, we ended up at Wagner's, at Wagner Rocha Martial Arts.
Big shout out to Wagner Rocha, man. He's a local legend, a jiu-jitsu superstar. I know he just lost his match, but prior to that, he won, I think, the last 2 or 3. He went to, did he go to EBJ?
I'm not sure.
He went to a couple of invites, like big top dog tournaments, top guys.
He did.
And he won and won. And I think he won again, but then he just lost his last one.
Yeah, one of my favorites was the combat jiu-jitsu, the Eddie Bravo combat jiu-jitsu.
That's what I was talking about. Yes, that's what I meant.
Incredible.
Yes, man. Yes, they show highlights of that video. So anyhow, shout out to Wagner. So he was at Wagner Rocha's, which that's the hat that you're representing right now.
Wagner to me is more than a coach. That guy is family. His family's family.
That's awesome.
I mean, I could call Wagner 3 in the morning and vice versa, and he's there. So he's the one that, they tell you, tell me who you hang with, and I'll tell who you are.
That's right.
Wagner, I sees Danny, in addition to his son, or along with his son, sees him as his protege. He is a caveman just like Wagner. Danny can go, go, go. There is no emptiness in his tank. So Wagner's the one that put in my head. Danny already knew it, but he put in my head,
this kid should fight.
He could fight. He should fight. And I said, Wagner, I trust you. I've seen you. You've earned my respect.
But at that point, and I apologize for cutting you off, at that point, was he striking already? Was he doing striking at the Miramar ATT, or he's just only doing jits and wrestling?
So when Danny left Miramar, he was just doing jiu-jitsu. When we went to Wagner's, about 8 months in, they started having sparring, because Jim Allers would come over there when he would go to fight, and then Wagner would train with him. We had a guy named Cookie that I loved. He was awesome. He's a pirate.
Okay.
McCook, he used to fight also. Crash, Rob DiFilippo, Kailash, whatchamacallit, oh my God, Ryan from the Go Shed, Ryan and man, I can't. All these guys they would fight there on Tuesday nights, and Danny started striking around 15 years old, and he wanted to fight. And Wagner told me, "You gotta let him fight. He's gonna fight." And now as a dad, I'm the cut man, so I walk out. I'm the one that.
Oh man, so you're even more involved than the average dad who wants to be involved. Like you're in it.
Yeah, and that that's how I ended up meeting Mitch, because Mitch came because of my job when it was time to turn in the tickets. Everything was separated, nice and neat. I knew what was going on. If he asked for this, the paperwork was right. When it came down to the fight, I had all my stuff prepped. Somebody needed something, gel for the face or whatever. I was Johnny on the spot. And I treated it like my job. When we walk out, people go, "Oh, aren't you freaking out?" I'm like, no. I'm just like in a fire or in my job, calm under the pressure. Afterwards, my wife and I will cry, especially after this last fight. But during the moment, I feel so much pride and so part of that I love it. I love it.
What was the first scary moment? I mean, again, I know that he got clipped and almost, overtook by his opponent. It was an amazing fight. God, he had to comeback of the year, I think.
Yeah, that was fight of the year.
Fight of the year, and I think Mitch was saying that it could have been a comeback too because of what. Anyhow, it was awesome. What was the first fight that really put you guys on edge where something might have happened to him, or has he dominated that much for the last 8 fights where that test hasn't come yet like that?
There was one that he fought in XFN against a guy from Denmark. He looked like a jacked up Conor McGregor. This guy was huge. He looked like Willie from The Simpsons, the janitor that's jacked up with the red beard.
Yeah.
That guy
probably juiced up. They don't test for it.
Yeah, and over there they don't have amateurs, so that guy could have been pro, but it forced Danny to stay standing most of the fight because
he couldn't outmuscle him.
He couldn't. The guy was able to hold down the takedowns or fight off the takedowns for a little bit. So that was a scary fight, but Danny won by decision. And then every fight after that and before that was just dominance. And then this fight with Will Banks, which shout out to Will Banks, and great sportsman, great fight. Nothing but respect for the kid. He's a fighter. I could never understand how guys take it personal when these guys fight. They're in the fighting business. That's
exactly
what they do, right?
Right.
So I have much respect to him and his coaches. But that fight, we wanted Danny to get some experience with striking, and we encouraged him to take it deep. But he had dominated up to that point.
Right.
And he just made a mistake. He got a little complacent or tired, and he made a mistake and got caught. And how he fought back was incredible.
That was the beginning of the third round that happened, right?
Beginning of the third round.
Beginning of the third round. Yeah, Danny dominated all the way up until that, and then he got clipped, and then dude overwhelmed him, but he maintained composure, and then he turned it around and ended up tapping him, right?
No, the bell rung with Danny in full mount, ground and pounding.
That's right. He ended up sweeping him eventually after the guy was on top. So is he going to go pro now? Did he choose to go pro, or is he still going to do... By the way, for those of you guys listening, I left an important part out. Not only is the kid 8-0, undefeated, he's double champ. He's champ. He's got a title in 2 different weight divisions.
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong. 145 and
155.
And 155. So that's a very difficult thing to do for those of you guys listening and watching. It's hard enough to cut weight and make your own weight. To be able to fluctuate or hang out at a mediocre weight where you can do both, most people are going to tell you, well, one's getting cheated. Either you're too small for 155 and you should be bigger, or you're cutting way too much weight to get to 145 and you're making yourself too weak because of how much you're cutting. So when you're able to do both, Conor McGregor has done it successfully. Amanda Nunes has done it successfully. Few people have done it. It's a very, very impressive thing, and he's done it. He's two belt holders, and now he's going to go pro.
Yes, you can't teach heart.
No,
and that heart doesn't only show in the ring; it shows in his training. His work ethic's incredible. And unfortunately, because of this whole COVID thing, he's been trying to go pro since April. So he had something lined up. He wants to fight with Combat Night for his first pro fight because they've been very good to us.
Yes, man.
They're a very professional organization. They bend over backwards to make sure they treat their fighters right, and they put on a quality show. And then on a personal note, $1 million deals are made on the golf course, right?
Right.
You talk to these guys, Mitch, as a person, I love that guy. Jim Allers, who used to train with Danny before he fought, is part of Combat Night there.
Right.
So he wants to make sure his first fight is with Combat Night. And, a pro show with no audience is a difficult thing to pull off.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting for his opportunity. He's ready. He posts picture. He looks jacked up.
Now, how does he feel about that new approach where he's going to have to fight in front of a crowd, no crowd?
He just wants to fight.
Yeah, he's got.
He doesn't care. He's just, Dad, I want to fight. Let's go.
So did Mitch tell him a date yet of what they're shooting for? I thought Mitch was trying to put on a card at the end of this month as well, but I'm not sure it's going to go through.
There's an amateur card that I believe.
Oh, not the pro card. You're right.
The pro card's in August, and we're waiting on that, and we're looking forward to it. We're just staying ready. He's working hard, and like everybody else, adapting to this whole world, this crazy world right now.
How's your daughter, who's 18? How does she take this whole thing of her brother being such a badass? Is she a big fan, a follower, and all that, or is she just like, hey, that's my brother, but I'm not really into all that violence?
She's extremely proud of him. She has no qualms with it being a violent sport because, at home she sees her brother who's humble, quiet. He's not out there talking smack. He just fights. He leaves it all out there, and he's gone all the time training. She seldom sees him. So she couldn't be any prouder. She has no problems with it. But, yeah, she's into her own thing too.
Is Danny trying to balance out a work life with training, or are you telling him, hey, put all your marbles in here, don't worry about working, I got that?
Yeah. Plan A, as a 50-year-old man that, done a lot of crazy stuff, I know that you only live once. There's certain small windows of opportunity. You can't control tomorrow. You can only control or attempt to control today, right? So I tell him, you have an incredible gift that God gave you. You're incredible at what you do. I'm fortunate enough to be able to work as a team for you to give it a legitimate shot at living your dream. That's plan A, UFC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plan B, when we get there, we got a certain number that we're going to reach. We fall back on that, become a fireman, some type of essential job where he can operate, that there's always a demand, a realistic field that he can live off of.
Mm-hmm.
And in that plan, when I retire, together him and I can open a school. He can run a school.
We spoke about that on our phone call. I thought that was a great idea. And especially when that time comes, by then Danny would be an experience of black belt all the way around. I mean, just striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, all kind of stuff. He'll also have the experience of many different gyms. He's trained at many different gyms. So I know I learned that, and now I have my own gym, but it's only, for private training. You learn from being at different gyms, hey, this one runs it this way, looks pretty successful. You could change this. This gym, real successful, but they're slacking, and you pick it up and learn. And to team up with you in the future, obviously future, that'd be a great idea, and especially you'll find the right location when the time comes. But I think that's awesome that you're helping him support him through this, especially since he shows those signs. It must be difficult for a parent to want to support their kid through what you know they're passionate about, but you also realize or think, okay, like let's say Danny was, 3-4, 3-3, won 3, lost 3. Hey son, you're not looking like the prodigy. You're not looking like the next big hype. We need to get some wins, and we need to see something better, or we really shouldn't focus on this. That's difficult because you're kind of pulling your kid away from a passion. Maybe they haven't hit their peak. Maybe they didn't learn enough. Maybe they had some slip-ups during their fights. So when you hear the opposite and you're so supportive, and luckily he's doing great, and he has the work ethic, that you guys instilled on him, that's a formula for success. And I told you earlier, I don't know if it was before we started recording or in between, one reason him and Elvin will be so successful, and even people like Gus as well, when you give it your all and you have the right work ethic. These guys, they're not party animals. They're not smokers. They're not drinkers. I don't care if they had a beer here and there. They're none of that. They're none of the 3 people that I just named. And I'm not saying you can't be successful if you do any of that, but the numbers start dropping. The percentile starts dropping. When you're more dedicated to your craft and there's very little that takes you astray from it, then you have a way, way better chance of succeeding in it. If nothing gets your attention too far off the line that's going to get you to the point you want to get to, then there's a really good chance you'll get there. You understand? Barring no setbacks, no injuries, things like that. So to see that Danny's doing this good and has your support and everything you just said, and to know the amount of people he trains with, Gilbert Burns, Caramel Thunder, Elvin, Prodigy, yeah, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other guys. Obviously Wagner. Fuck, if you're rolling with Wagner, your game is stepping up. That's Wagner Rocha. So that's awesome. That's awesome. And you had mentioned Fight Sports. Is he doing something with them as well or no?
You know, they say, tell me who you hang with, tell me who you are. You know, we've been blessed. I couldn't ask for any, and how it happens is amazing. But Danny trains with Wagner, right? Wagner's like a father to him, you know, second father. Now he has the gorilla uncle that loves him to death, Cyborg. Maggie. That whole Fight Sports team over there, they love him. And then he trains with Jim Allers.
Right.
The bare knuckle beast.
He's got a big fight coming up, man.
Yeah.
Friends, too.
I love Jim. But Jim also loves him. Miguel. He used to train with Kevin Gleason, Wagner, Elvin. I can't explain how fortunate we are.
Right.
You know, and without his natural skill, you know, he could still be around those people, but there's such a common bond because of their skill level that you could see that the success is waiting. You know,
right.
Wagner, Cyborg, Gilbert, those guys have success. Miguel, but you could see that in that group, it just keeps coming up. So we're just fortunate that we're in that environment.
That's really awesome, dude. I love to hear all that, and I think the formula is there. I believe it. Anybody listening right now, if you really want to follow somebody who, obviously we're biased, but if you want to follow a fighter who we truly think is going to be one of the next big deals, like for real big deals, not just talking it up, Danny Collazo Jr., the Devastating Kid, make sure you look him up, follow him on. I don't know what his Instagram handle is. I know I'm following him, but just type it in D-A-N-N-Y and then C-O-L-L-A-Z-O. Collazo. That's Puerto Rican?
You know, it's funny. It depends how you say it. My dad is Puerto Rican, but I guess, you know, like most of us come from Spain or whatever, or Italy maybe. You say it in English, they pronounce it Collazo.
Sounding Italian.
Man, I can't tell you how many Italians or New Yorkers go, oh, Collazo. And I'm like, hey, forget about it. But yeah, it's Collazo. Crazy.
But did you know enough about your grandparents? Were they from across the way, like Europe, or no? I mean, it's all Latin descent in some shape or form.
Wes, it's crazy. My family, I knew more about my mom's side than my dad. So my dad, he was orphaned when he was 12. So he raised his siblings and then lied about his age to go to World War II so that he can help, you know, send back money to them and stuff. So I didn't know my grandfather on his side. On my father's deathbed, excuse me, I found out that I had 2 elder brothers, a family before us. He was 50 when I was born. So my mom said she had to rape him, but being 50, I could understand what she's saying. But man, so at 50, yeah, obviously he had to have had a family beforehand. And we looked for them, and at the time I couldn't find them. But yeah, I got siblings out there that are probably in their 70s or 60s.
Tell me that, Danny, I hope you answered this the right way, because this is too common of a trend in South Florida, but really in a lot of Hispanic communities. Does Danny speak fluently in Spanish? Fuck, man. He doesn't, does he? He doesn't.
No. He understands it. Like, we went to Costa Rica on a surf trip, and I refused to help him order food or anything. So he can understand it, and my wife tries to force it on him, but he's, unfortunately, yeah, man, he has that bad accent, and you could barely speak it, but he tries. But nah, not like us growing up.
Nah, yeah, you got to keep real to your roots, and you can't forget that, especially being from South Florida, and you know you're around your peoples. You just can't forget that.
What's up, folks? Thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Black Sheep Perspective, Season 2, baby. If this happens to be your first time watching or listening, please take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so that you don't miss another episode. And once again, guys, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you everyone out there for all the amazing support. And a big shout out to my man Hector and his entire team over there at Driver Shop USA. If you guys follow me on IG or live in this beautiful city of Miami, you'll be able to catch the dope-ass wrap job that was done to my Chevy Colorado truck. Not only did they wrap the entire truck to protect its original paint job, they then slapped on multiple high-quality logo wraps on all sides so that I can remind those of you who are looking to tune in to the best new podcast. From boats to motorcycles to automobiles of all kinds, Driver Shop USA is continuously redefining luxury. Now let's get back to the podcast.
So, the reason I asked you about the Danny speaking Spanish part is because, unfortunately, and I would assume that people around the world probably think differently about Florida or even South Florida because, they like to call South Florida. I just heard this for like the first time like 4 months ago. Where have I been? That people like to call South Florida North Cuba. I think it's hilarious. I think it is the funniest joke that, Miami or North Cuba. Oh, okay, yeah, I get it, yeah. Unbeknownst to a lot of people out there, a lot of our younger Latinos, the Dannies or maybe even the 30-year-olds, they're losing the roots of their language. They're not practicing it enough. They're not, I don't know. I guess as we move forward, generations are forgetting their histories. They're not looking into the history that brought them there. Even, and I'm not trying to get off track, even the rap game right now, I don't know what kind of music you listen to, but even the rap game, I don't listen to none of this bullshit that comes out right now at all. And it's not because I'm being an asshole about it. It's just, it does not entertain me. It's not good music. There's a couple Drake songs here and there, Pusha T, whoever. Some of them are pretty decent. But this mumble jumble, this, young that, whatever. No, they're dressing like girls and all that stuff. But I end up thinking, man, if I was a producer, I would try my best. It'll be my goal to get all the old school tracks and bring them back. I'm not talking about the 80s, 70s. No, I'm talking about 90s, early 2000s. These millennials, these 20-something-year-olds, they don't even know what a good song from Outkast is. They only know like Hey Ya or something like that. They don't know Outkast coming up. They don't know, what Trick Daddy and Luke did for Miami. It's funny because you mentioned the breakdancing, and I was like, at some point, booty shaking came in and took over as you guys were kind of weeding out from the
1985, 86.
Shout out to Luke and the whole booty shaking era, man. I got to get Luke on here one of these days. I will for sure. But yeah, man, back to the topic. The Spanish language is being forgotten by a lot of our Latin people. They're just not practicing enough. You said it the best when you said the road with least resistance.
The path of least resistance.
The path of least resistance is what most people are taking in general, approaching stuff, and there they lose the value of what has a bigger underlying meaning, and it is what it is. Hopefully, Danny, when you're listening, because I expect you to be listening. For one, I can't wait to have you on the show as well. But two, my brother, you do got to pick up this Spanish language. One, because it's your culture, you should be proud of it. I know you know that. But more importantly, because like I told your dad off camera a couple of times, you are a product. You are the product. You are the brand, the devastating kid. If all you can do is talk English, don't tell me you're going to have a Spanish translator. Latinos are going to be like, oye, pero ¿qué te pasa a ti? ¿Tú eres latino? ¿Cómo que tú no puedes, So let's try to work on that so we can help push you even harder to the South American, Central American countries, and we can get them all on board with this Collazo train that's coming at us.
You hear that, Evie? My wife, Evie. You hear that? You got to step up your teaching him Spanish game.
Oh, Evie, that wasn't my fault. That was your husband saying that. I've caused too many issues between relationships with the podcast. It's hilarious. Let's go to this COVID thing, Danny. You mentioned that your son's been waiting since January, that he was supposed to, or late since his last fight, that he was supposed to fight a couple of times already. This has happened to a lot of fighters. It happened to Gus as well. It happened to Elvin as well. Many fighters, probably nationwide, definitely here in South Florida. COVID has definitely changed the world, flipped it upside down. Every city, every state is going through something different. Every branch of something is going through something different. Officers in New York are going through something different than those down here. Firefighters, in Cali, something different over here. What is the impact that it's had on you guys? And give us a little brief description on the difficulties or maybe you guys haven't been able to face that many difficulties. I highly doubt that. But walk us through how you guys have been adapting and dealing with COVID, and has it impacted a lot of your peoples, a lot of your, I was going to say soldiers, a lot of your coworkers, your firefighters, in regards to them catching it, or not really? That hasn't been an issue because they're so covered and masked up, but yet it's been a lot of drama with everything that's been going on.
Well, professionally, in the fire service, we're human, so we have our fears, just like everybody else, our opinions. And then we have our professional component. We are trained to risk our lives for a benefit. If the benefit is great, such as going through one window, because even though there's fire and there's 2 kids in there, that benefit is worth risking our lives greatly. So for the COVID or anything else, as professionals, we don't treat it any different in terms of approach and risk as the swine flu, HIV, or anything else. We wear what we're supposed to wear, and we go out and we treat people. There's more call volumes that the call volume has gone up, and then it goes down. It kind of swings, but we approach it the same. This is our job. We're here to help people. On a personal level at home, well, my wife almost losing her job. The girls, my daughter who was a senior, no prom, no graduation.
That's big too, by the way.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
as a high schooler, how can you that's your first big, the prom, the senior, the walk.
Talking about picking her dress way
all
back
that.
in November, you know.
Oh, man.
They missed out. This whole generation missed out a lot of that. There was some good bonding. I believe that, God has a plan, and good comes out of all these things. But in terms of the effect, so my wife almost lost her job. My daughter missed out on some life goals or life experiences that we look fondly back upon. But Danny, this is his career. So him emotionally and professionally, it's affecting him and not just him, Combat Night, any other organization, the MMA community. I mean, they're talking about a disease that has been theorized on and off, but the gist of it is that you can pass it on without having any symptoms.
Right.
So in a sport where you're grappling, where you're, close quarters, and now in an era where they're talking about social distancing, that's a pretty big hurdle to overcome. I have my personal opinions as a medic, and using logic, but in the end, it has had a great effect, and it kills me to hear that there's a new normal, because as human beings, viruses and bacteria have existed all along.
Right.
When we send a brand new kid to school, they get sick a lot. Right? Or not
it's part of that building their immune system.
You got to build your immune system. Being locked up and covered up, you don't gain immunity. Your body actually weakens, right?
Exactly.
So I have my feeling about that, but it doesn't change the fact that there's some mandatory regulations now, and that people have to abide by in order to survive. If you have a business and this and that, you need to adhere to these rules in order to continue to function. And I think the effect is going to have a ripple that's going to go for way longer than the actual COVID is, And I think it's a pattern. It won't be the last time we'll see a virus or bacteria that's going to lead to mass fear, because everybody fears dying. But how many people are really dying from this compared to what they're saying? And I think that risk of dying over the benefit of being able to provide a living, earn a living, have a career, that benefit's going down because everybody's afraid of this risk. I don't think it's worth it. But that's just me. As a professional, I adhere to all the rules. We treat everybody like we would everybody else. We fight to help people, and we're not afraid because that's what we do. But personally, that's
no jobs were at jeopardy for your department. You guys are first responders. Those are the last people who have anything to worry about in regards to their jobs, right?
Yes and no. In terms of what happens is we always do the most with the least. In other words, firefighters, even police, regardless of what we have, you can't take away that urge to help. So if they take away fire trucks or less staffing or less equipment, we're still going to do our job because that's in our nature. So the effect that it has on us is not so much that we fear that the fire service is going to go away, but to provide that service, it costs money. So now because of the COVID, there will be less money in the budget to afford the same resources to be able to provide that service, to do that job. In other words, trucks cost money,
Right.
salaries cost money. We get older, people leave. Now you need money to bring younger people in, right? So with less money, it's hard to maintain that same level of service.
So the level of impact is different, but there is an impact
Absolutely.
on you guys.
Absolutely.
It's just a little bit more, I would say, affecting you guys differently than what it would everybody else who's immediately impacted by those who lost their jobs and are being forced into staying home, basically. And has Danny had a good attitude about it? Has he held it pretty good, or has he been more, resilient towards it because, hey, I'm a fighter, I'm in good shape, it's not going to affect me? And did you guys ever clash heads where it's like, no, stay home? Or were you kind of like, train with just a few people, Danny, please be smart about it?
Well, everybody has to take ownership or have some responsibility in their own actions in order to be responsible, right? So when it first came out and they're saying quarantine, everybody in my house was not exposed to anyone for a month. Then we found people that had been in the same position, right? So we had mats in our house. So guys that we knew for a fact had not been around other people.
Right.
A very small group would come to the house and they would train in the courtyard, things like this. So he's been able and determined to come out of this, and he's been training hard. The kid trains 4 or 5 times a day, every day except for Saturday and a Tuesday or something. So his attitude is, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to be ready to fight. The frustration is when that gets moved up and things that are out of his control. And, as a dad, as a professional, you go, hey, that's just an opportunity to get better so that when you do fight, he was going to go to Bang Muay Thai up in Colorado.
Yeah, to do a camp? Or just as do it for, yeah.
He was going to do a month over there and then come back for the rest of his camp.
That'd be great, man. Dwayne Bang, Ludwig, he's amazing. They got a nice camp. They got a bunch of studs out there. I love his striking. I'm a big fan of that style of striking. I'm a big fan of TJ Dillashaw, minus the bullshit he did. But as a fighter, I think he's amazing. That would be great for Danny. And is he still planning to do that once he's allowed to?
Well, Mitch and Jim Allers actually pointed us in that
Mitch
direction.
went over there once or twice.
Yeah, they're the ones that hooked us up. We had set the money aside. Some people had donated money. Danny got some of the Joshua Man.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he was using that to go over there, and then this whole COVID thing started. So we're waiting. We're gonna strategically go over there and do that month if this fight's held off again. So we're going to try to make the most of it, but I ain't going to lie. He's frustrated about not being able to fight because imagine, his stuff is all hand-to-hand. So,
right.
He trains at Stanford. Look what happened with Gilbert right now when he was leaving to Fight Island. So those fears, and the way that I've always seen it is...
Have you tested your family at all? Have you, by any chance, gotten some type of test and given them all? Danny's
gotten tested because of what he does. The rest of us, even at my job, you don't get tested unless you're symptomatic. So if they say, hey, you were next to a person that had it, you guys took a person to the hospital that had it, right? Unless you're sick, you don't get tested. Now you get sick, you call in, you get put on leave, and then you go get tested.
So something that happens within systems. I say within systems because if you're not part of a system, you won't know much about it. Like the black market. People don't realize that the black market really exists. Not just the black market, but there's levels to the black market. And people think like that's like some movie shit. No, there's literally levels to the black market and what you can do, how you can get it, where they're located, all this stuff. A lot of it across seas, Afghanistan, China, whatever. But anyhow, the reference that I'm doing is if you're not part of a system, it's really difficult to know the depths of what goes on, especially the corruption. And I'm not trying to tap into anything deep into here, but being that you've been a lifelong firefighter, you've met and rubbed shoulders with, I imagine, all kind of politicians, government officials, county officials, electoral people, things of that nature. Do firefighters get the benefits from these people, or do these people push for them, or do they downplay what you guys do and don't support you enough with whatever it is that they would need to do? Like, is there enough support to help firefighters do their job the right way and be as ready, not just through COVID, just in general, and much less now through COVID. Do you feel that you guys are being taken care of the right way, or do you guys feel like this is some grade A bullshit that's going on? We just don't feel like contesting it, but things should really be handled a lot differently.
I feel, yes, we have the support, but I feel the reason. Let's say firefighters are trained to adapt, right? You try to open a door because there's a house on fire and there's somebody on the side and you can't open it with this tool. Well, you try another tool, that tool doesn't work, then you go through a window. You adapt. So firefighters, we get the support we need, and whether it's a lot of support or a little bit of support, and when I'm talking about support, I mean budgeting or money, right? We take what we have, we adapt, and we make the most of it, and we provide a service. Something that was told to us a long time ago, and I didn't even realize it till you see it on TV, right? So you'll see a commercial for like Subway or any company, and you'll see a firefighter in the commercial. There's no like City of Miami on there or West Palm. It's just a guy with a helmet and a coat. Well, that image is priceless because of the service we provide. The public image of the firefighter is that we're there to help people. We're heroes. That support is always there.
Okay.
Sometimes it wavers, like when they want to raise a tax to help pay for some things. But for the most part, all we care about is providing the service to the best of our ability and helping people, regardless of race, gender, whatever. People say, oh, these guys work in a predominantly white neighborhood or a predominantly Spanish neighborhood. When there's a fire.
No, you're okay. Sorry.
When there's a fire, regardless of who's inside, regardless of who is inside the 9/11 towers, Twin Towers, regardless of who you're doing
You're treating it the
CPR,
same way.
we're treating because we're trained to help people. And your human aspect with that training, it doesn't matter who you're helping. You're just going to do your best. So to answer your question, we have support. The budget fluctuates, but we adapt and we do what's best with what we got.
And when all these riots, or let me not say riots, sorry, these protests, when these protests were occurring, did you guys get a wave of that over there, or was it kind of calm in Palm Beach areas and you weren't heavily involved in protests?
We had protests, and within those protests there were riots. And what we mean by riots are acts that weren't protesting.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
So aggressive acts. There was some of that, and there was a lot of protests. In this country, it's your right to protest.
Right.
Right? It was funded on that. You founded on that. You should be able to protest.
Mm-hmm.
For us, we go out. As long as it's safe for us to come in, we come out. But it's been like this forever. In my job, we can go to a shooting that was gang related, or you could go to an accident of somebody that was running from the cop and they got thrown, and now you're helping that person like anybody else, right? Or you can go to a baby, this and that. So during these times, we had protests over there. I would say we're fortunate that it was 90% protests, peaceful protests.
Okay.
And there were some that were not. For us, we did what we always do. When they call us, we go.
Approach it the same way.
Yes, sir.
Provide the service.
Absolutely.
It's crazy that these times have brought a lot of ugly out of people. And it's confused a lot of people because you really do not know what to believe sometimes. We do know that fake news exists. We do know that there's a lot of dirty politics behind a lot of, not COVID, but just a lot of what we see on a daily basis. I don't watch the news. I told you earlier, if it's not educating me or making me smarter in some shape or form, I cut it out of my life. Very rare that I'm just going to watch some nonsense. Might watch a movie, but there's like nothing to watch for me. I'm not a movie craze guy, nothing like that. Very YouTube, very do it yourself, very learn this, hear that speech, this, that, whatever. But you can't dodge it that it's out there. And there's a lot out there. So, I get just, little bits and pieces of what's going on and what's the next conspiracy. And I do believe in conspiracies. Let me not say that I don't, because I do. But I don't fuel it because I don't feel like we can affect it. I feel like whoever's behind the bullshit that's going on, it's going to happen. We're not going to stop it. We're at the bottom of the totem pole. We're a pea in a pod. So Do you guys experience those type of moments, those type of situations where it's like, guys, don't even get involved, don't even give that any mind, just do your job? Or are you pretty unfazed by these type of things that are going on because of the approach that you have? Just go do your job, and every time we get there, as far as funding, when it fluctuates, we'll get by it. And that's pretty good. And you guys got, because I know cops think differently, and they're pissed, and they're this, and they're that, rightfully so with everything that's going on. But firefighters, you guys are in a different ball game.
Yes. At the station, we're humans, just like cops. We have opinions, we have observations, we use logic, we formulate thoughts. We can't control. What we can't control is just conversation. What we can't control is how we act when we go out on calls.
Right.
So we act professional. Politics, we keep it out for the most part out of the stations. Sometimes you can't help it because they're humans and we talk about it. But for the most part, we just do our job. Police, different. They're under attack. They're a form of authority, and that authority is being questioned and challenged and things like this. As far as all these things going on, man, Wes, as older men, right, we came up in a way where logic and situational awareness is critical. Mm-hmm. Where do we get our information? Where did we learn how to behave from our parents, right? So it is our responsibility to utilize that logic, that awareness. Some people say to create conspiracy theories or just to question what you're seeing and how it's happening. Today's world, what you learn is what you see. Back in the days, they read newspapers.
Right.
And the news was 30 minutes. The news is 24 hours a day now.
Right.
And it's on social media. So how much of that is made up or altered? We don't know. It all depends on who owns it. All we could control is, how is your heart? Are you a righteous person? Were you taught values? And then were you taught to see 2 + 2 = 4? If they're telling you it equals 8, well, it's up to you to decide, why are they telling me it's 8/4, right? And if everyone as a whole would not just take everything they see as fact and utilize logic, then there can affect change. Because for the same reason that you said earlier, we can't really affect too much of it. For the same reason, we would never expected what's happening in our country to be this huge like this. Mm-hmm. No one would ever expected that, but it took people's mentality and their collective thoughts for this to happen. So I agree that if everybody would use logic and have their heart in the right way and be civil, that the same change can happen in the opposite way, just as huge, right? So I would argue that each person can make that change if we were to utilize those things.
Have you ever been told by any of your coworkers, "Hey, Danny, man, you should run for governor, you should run for mayor," anything like that? No?
In the old days, I guess because I talked a lot, they said, "Oh, you're a mayor."
Well, I mean, you're a good talker. You've been around long enough, but you're not some viejo who's on my gal, grumpy at the fact that life keeps evolving, I tend to, I either love the hell out of an old person, or I might be quick to be like, fine, bro, go jump off a bridge, whatever. The reason I say that is because I think older people, they're either or. They're very extreme. They're very accepting of, hey, man, life has changed many times, many eras, and I've gotten witness it all, and I'm thankful for it. And if you want to hear about it, I got a story. Here it goes. And you just love those people, and you want to hear what they've been through and their take and their wisdom, and they're fucking awesome. I can sit down and have a whiskey with them, whatever.
Yeah.
But then you have the ones that they are exactly like the movies. They're grumpy as shit, and they feel like anyone who's 10 years younger than them and beyond doesn't have any idea what they've been through. They don't know how lucky they are. They don't know the truth behind this, behind that. And it's difficult to deal with them. So when you got the wrong person, I say that loosely, in a position of leadership, of governing, that tends to lead the wrong way many, many times. You've seen what our Florida governors have done, been involved in some. I couldn't believe that this guy who's involved in the who was the last governor?
Scott.
Wasn't he highly involved in some huge, and then he almost got arrested for an insurance scam like years prior?
I don't know detail. I know there was something that he had a company that had to do with medical.
There you go.
bills or
That
something
fraud,
like
some
that.
fraud, whatever. Somehow still ended up becoming our governor. To me, that's insane. I'm not saying people can't get forgiven. I'm a big example of that. But that's insane. If you have a gun charge of some craziness, you can be forgiven, but you probably shouldn't be given a gun possession anymore. So, I think people, when they see people like yourself, and they've been working with you, and you got this good heart, you got the right age, great amount of experience, and you've already been leading from the front, and I'm not trying to tell you to do it. Don't think that at all. But you end up becoming really good candidates for positions of leadership. And the next position outside of being the chief that you are would be obviously some type of politics, So I know that certain officers, once they reach a certain level, or even firefighters and people of your careers, they would go into that because they saw the dirty part of it. They saw what could be done better. If that's not something you contemplate, good for you. I would say it's too much of a pain in the ass. Don't do it. But people are saying The Rock should go out for president. Can you imagine that? The Rock as the president?
Well, it's a popularity contest,
Isn't it?
And I appreciate your words. It's humbling. It's a broken system.
Majorly.
Right?
Big time.
It's a broken system. And not just that, but even people as a whole, how do you influence somebody to vote for you? And then, do you know why you're voting for them? Like, man, you could ask a group of kids, what are your bill of rights? What are your rights? And most of them don't know. Well, then how do you stand up for something you don't even know exists?
Right.
Right. So it's just a big thing. I'm content in that, and I'm human, so I make mistakes. I'm sure my wife will disagree with a lot of the things, your thought on me, but the reality is I'm older, I'm fatigued, the stressors of work and what happens and what you see. I'm ready to surf, be behind my kid's corner. I want to be the cut man for Danny. I want to help him open a school. I want to enjoy life, kind of vent, let some of that stuff go. It's funny, some of our guys.
So true. That's good. That's
right?
really good. That's awesome.
Some of our guys retire and they're like, man, I actually feel younger because now they're sleeping. You're looking at 26, 28 years of bad sleeping habits.
Danny, have you gotten checked? I'm sure you have. Have you gotten checked recently? I mean, in regards to
the COVID?
No, man, no. For anybody listening, I did the COVID check with Danny. I asked him if he had it. He said no. We were good.
Because of my job, I am. We're aware of that, and we're making sure that we take the right actions not to put other people in danger.
Right. No, my main question was your health because of your whole career, and when you said it earlier on in the podcast, what happens to firefighters after post career? I'm sure there's a number of not just sicknesses, but whatever it is, stress induced factors, sleep apneas. I don't know what it'll be, but are you okay? Have you gotten a physical? Have you gotten checked where you're pretty good, minus 2 main croquetas or something?
Yeah, my waistline's a little bigger, but I had some tests done. We try to do like this full body cancer, like a MRI or CAT scan that checks your whole body.
Okay.
And I was good. There was some scares about other things that ended up being nothing. But I'm due again, and because of this whole COVID thing, I've been wanting to do. I turned 50. So I need LASIK again. My eyes are bad. My left eye.
You did it already once, and now you're gonna fix it.
I did in 2000. Astigmatism. I couldn't see, just like you were saying. Like,
same here. I'm gonna have to redo mine soon enough. It's coming up. My right eye.
Yeah, my left eye is horrible. I wanted to get the whole prostate thing. I want to get another scan for cancer because they say there's been a study in the fire service in the last, I'd say 15 years. They've really been pushing for it. If you work beyond 54, you won't last 10 years because you die of cancer. Because all the factors are multiplied with.
Right, by then.
No sleep and stress and this and that. So, and the stuff that we're exposed to, the chemicals. So right now I feel I'm good. And the last couple of years I was able to get some stuff, but because of the COVID now, and think about this, doctors treat you regardless of what you have, right?
Right.
So now doctors only see you via a meeting, a Zoom thing. There's no seeing people in person for the most part. So it was a little difficult. It's coming back, but I'd like to go and get my, the colonoscopy and all these things that would make sure, okay, you're good, to give you that peace of mind. It's been a little difficult to address. I feel good, but I also feel that weight on me. I went spearfishing yesterday. Today, everything hurts.
What's going on, beautiful people? Just want to take a moment to thank everyone out there for tuning in. We continue getting so much love and support and appreciate every bit of it. But on that note, if you're a new listener or simply someone who's interested in following our journey, please take a second to subscribe to our channel or download whatever necessary app in order to never miss a show. Also, why not give us a follow on Instagram at BlackSheep305 and at Gus Villamil. Again, we truly appreciate all the love and support and look forward to continuously giving everyone listening a different perspective. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, I can imagine that the health aspect is a I don't want to say a double-edged sword. It's a scary thing because you feel healthy, you look good, you feel good, everything's there. But man, whatever it is that you've inhaled or done or lack of sleep, everything you mentioned, ojalá it doesn't, have a toll in the long run. I've heard, I know it's a bad comparison, but I've heard that once you smoke a certain amount of time, I used to hear this. I think they debunked it. Once you smoke a certain amount of time, it doesn't matter if you quit. You're already, whatever effect is there from if you're going to catch the cancer or if your lungs or whatever. But I think that got switched around, and then it was now, no, the minute you stop smoking, you start healing yourself and things start happening. I guess everybody's different. I'm not sure. Hopefully that same thing, because the body, we spoke about the body before we started the podcast. Most amazing, device creation that exists, the way it heals itself, the way it adapts, the way it does what it does. Yeah, it's crazy. I would assume and hope that whatever might have took its toll on you can little by little, get fixed or just it went away. I don't know.
I appreciate that. I want to lose the fat, but the reality is because of my job and just life in general. And I told my son, I've talked to Wagner and I reached out to Miguel. The only thing we could control, or not even control, but really enjoy is the moment. Nothing else is guaranteed. So when you're 24 and you fight, man, take that all in. When you're walking out, right? The sounds, the lights.
Embrace
you
it.
look to your right and your left and you see your team there. And you step in there and you fight. Win or lose, enjoy it, because next day you may not be able to do it again, right? Or then you're 50 and you look back and you go, man, those are cool times.
Right.
Enjoy the moment. That's all we can hope for, man.
And that's kind of where you're at right now. And I see that. I love that you were saying what your plans are after you retire from the department. You earned that, and you got to do that. You don't. I mean, everybody's story is different, but you don't bust your ass and do everything that you've done for as long as you have and gone through what you've gone through and witnessed what you've witnessed, just to be done with it and then continue doing some other shit and not really sit back and enjoy yourself. If you're presenting yourself an opportunity to sit back and enjoy the surfing, enjoy being in your son's corner, not have to worry about the stresses of certain bills or certain phone calls, from the department or things like that. You earned that. You earned that, and you do need to live it up. And I'm glad that you're speaking like that. Now, I do think though, I mean, it'd be different because you're active, but some, a lot of people, older people who retire, they find themselves not doing anything, and whether they do it because they're bored, they want a little extra money. I know that sometimes that's a reason, but I think it's more so because they're tired of being home and they don't. I don't know if those were once active people who eventually got old and now they can only do so much activity, so they decided to keep working after, retired age, or those were never active people. And that's why when the retirement part hits and they don't have shit to do but sit home, they realize, man, I never built up a good enough habit to stay healthy now that I'm retired. I need to find something to do, because if I just sit here, I'm going to wither away.
Yeah.
You seem like the complete opposite of that, so that's good.
I approping it, brother.
Yeah. Surfing wise, what's on the list, dude? What's on? I know we still got time, but what's the bucket list?
Oh man, I'm hoping they open things up, but I'd like to go to Australia. I've never been there. I've been to Bali. We stayed in these islands one time. It's called the Maldives.
Okay.
We went there. I'd like to go back there, just to be able to continue doing it. I'm not looking to surf any death-defying stuff.
Good. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
I couldn't if
I
I
want
wanted.
to go out this one time when this 50-foot wave comes. No.
I couldn't if I wanted to anymore.
What's
but
the biggest wave that you've ridden?
I'd said, actually, Florida's had some days, but I'd say 15, 16-foot faces. You know, nothing that crazy. Nothing much bigger than that would have been insane.
That couldn't have been in Florida.
Yeah.
That was in Florida.
I'll show
Danny,
you.
I don't think anybody believes you on that.
I'm
That is
show
insane.
you a picture afterwards so you can freak out. Florida.
On what? It has to be in the Palm Beach area?
So,
You guys got more turbulence over there? You got rougher waters? Maybe. I don't know.
It all depends on the source. So let's say last winter in January was one of the most beautiful, biggest days that we've had in Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. Basically a low pressure system, which is like a hurricane almost, but coming from the north, a cold front. And it just spun right off the coast. And then that angle sends waves in between the Bahamas and us. And then if there's a hurricane, once it gets north of the Bahamas, it sends stuff down.
Right.
So, but yeah, there are beautiful days. Now, in Florida, the tide, the wind, it affects it more than normal places. But yeah, we get some very good days.
I would imagine that the good thing about those big waves in Florida, what the hell do I know, but is that you don't have coral rock to be slammed into. Not to say you can't be slammed on your shit or break something, but it's sand. It's a bunch of sand, right? Is that a positive? Is that a plus about surfing our waters?
It depends. Like South Beach in Miami, when it gets big like that, during low tide, it'll be like waist deep and the waves will be huge. We watched this winter on the 27th. We saw a guy get tossed and he had his arm out when he landed. He broke his elbow in the opposite way. So sand is sand. Hard is hard, right? So that, and in terms of reef, you're right. There's not much reef around here.
You should do jiu-jitsu and learn how to break his fall.
Yeah,
you don't do that, bro.
No bueno.
No.
But, you know, for me, reef, I love reef better than sand. Because reef, usually there's a deep area. So when you paddle out, which is the hardest part of surfing, when you paddle out, it's, oh, okay, I'm cool. And then you go to where the waves are and the wave breaks in the same spot every time.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like a machine almost.
Okay, I get it.
Talk about surfing a lot.
See, people want to know that. Well, I mean, that's surfing. You know, I think that's. I would love to do. I would love to try almost everything if I could. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm not at all. But I can do some. You know, we can do a little bit of adrenaline things. I'll skydive. I want to skydive. Oh yeah, I wouldn't think twice about it.
That's
you
awesome. I've done it.
Oh, you have? Oh, once, twice, what?
Funny story. I did it. I made my wife go when we were dating. She went. I had done it twice before. Then I took the class to do it
Buddy
solo.
up. Oh, okay.
Right? Because at first you have to do the tandem thing. So I went and took the class. At the end of the class, they were talking about some of the rules that you can't jump in solo when you're learning, and it's a wind. So the wind criteria that day didn't allow me to jump. So after shift, this was out in Clewiston. After I would work at the firehouse, I would drive all the way out to Clewiston to get my jumps in, to get my license. I did that every day for like after every shift for like 4 months. The wind never dropped. My wife said, that's a sign. You better not jump. If you jump, I'm leaving you. So I never went and got my solo license.
Oh, to this day, you still haven't.
No.
But all you need is one jump?
You need...
No, I'm talking about one more jump.
2 jumps in one day, but solo. And what you do is the instructors are next to you. And then after that, you have to have a certain amount of hours before you don't need anybody with you. So if you get... I don't know, 100 hours or 10 jumps or whatever.
Right.
And you can start just showing up with your stuff, paying to get on the plane and just jump.
That sounds so awesome.
Bro, if you do it, you got to do it in Sebastian, which is North Florida.
Yeah, I know where it's at, the area over there.
Because they jump over the ocean because the winds are coming out of the east. So you jump over the ocean and drift into land. So awesome.
Man, when I tell you that, you literally are making me going to do it as soon as possible. I mean, I was already determined to skydive without a doubt. But, you know, when you get that bug, you hear about it, you want to do it. That's been on the bucket list, so I'll definitely do that soon. I have bungee jumped. Have you done that?
No.
Probably doesn't call your attention as much anymore, right? Why would it?
Yeah, it's not as popular as it used to be, like the locations.
But once you skydive, what's bungee jumping for what? I was
gotta-
thousands of feet up there. Why do I want to do a bridge or a crane?
You got to do New Zealand. They have like a freaking 1,000-foot bridge. You know?
Bungee?
Yeah, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
Well, I would love to go to New Zealand just to visit it. That place, it's just so beautiful in regards to the naturaleza, you know, the stuff that they have there, the animal, wildlife, the way they live, everything. Very, very luring, you know, makes you want to go. I don't know, very Amazonian, you know, one of those last places that still has all kind of beautiful forestry and naturalness going on. I mean, I'm sure there's people building shit like they are everywhere, but you know, definitely on the bucket list as well in regards to like also Great Barrier Reef. So speaking of spearfishing, what's one of the biggest things you've ever speared?
And I'll tell you a story, and it didn't even involve a spear. We were on a surf trip. We were staying on a boat for 2 weeks in the Maldives. And the first week they were feeding us bonita, curry, grilled, Parmesan, blackened. We were tired of the bonita, right? So we went lobstering. We had a lobster bag, a tickle stick, and a flashlight. And the ocean there is so clear that at 40 feet, you could see fish at the bottom.
Okay.
So we were anchored on the leeward side of this island at night, and it was a full moon, so we decided to go try to get lobster. But the lobsters there were so scared of people because they've been poached that they don't even come up to you. They just take off. As soon as they see you, they take off. So we're swimming along. We came across the wall, right? And at the time, I was in great shape, so we would dive down 30, 40 feet and look. Anyways, we see this huge mouth, and I'm looking at the wall through my buddy's flashlight. It's a mouth, and it looked like a huge Cabera snapper. So we go to the surface. I said, hey, I'm going to put the net in front of the hole, and you reach from the other side.
Bro, you guys got him.
Bro.
Tell me you got a picture of this thing that I can see later
I
on.
got a picture. I'm going to show you.
Wow.
It was like a 45-pound Napoleon wrasse. It's a family of the hogfish. It fed 12 people for 2 nights in a row. But when we got home, we found that we looked up the fish and it ended up being a protected species in the Indian Ocean.
You got away with one big time. Oh.
But the boat captain was like, yes, we eat, because he would point out what we could eat or not.
Where is this at? The what islands?
They're called the Maldivian Islands or the Maldives, depending on who you ask. So it's between India and Africa on the equator. So if you look on a globe, it looks like specks of.
What took you way the hell over there?
In the surf world, you start researching locations and stuff like that. And it was just, at the time, it was a place that wasn't popular and had good, beautiful waves. So we went over there for 2 weeks on a 100-foot boat. It was incredible.
Wow.
Incredible.
Those are some good memories right there, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. And does Danny know how to surf? Does anybody in your family surf aside from you?
You know what's freaky about that kid? He's such a natural athlete. Like when he was a little kid, I would push him since he was like 3, and he would surf all the way to shore. And then now with the training, he seldom surfs.
Right.
And we went to Costa Rica last year, and I took him out on a big day, and it was all reef. And, man, the kid goes for it. There's no fear. He just goes for it. And I saw him catch a wave that was a good 10 foot, like 4 or 5 feet over his head. And he caught it from the beginning of the wave across his channel. It was like 100 yards of just incredible wave. And to him, it was like nothing. He's like, this is fun.
My brother, he used to be a skater, not like some punk skater, but he was a skater, you know. And in due time, he stepped it up, and he even as a young adult, he stepped it up and started longboarding. Then he went from longboarding to the little board. Then he started inline skating, and when he was inline skating, that's when it was like really hot. He got pretty good. Right? Then we went skiing. Never have we skied. We haven't even seen snow.
It's not common for us guys to go up there, right?
Not at
Humans
all.
to go up there.
Not at all. But we were dying to see snow. And then I guess I was not dying to ski, but yeah, sure, let's do it. We went down a slope we had no business going down. Immediately, we got misguided by a homeboy of ours, asshole that he was. And sure enough, I don't know what level it was, but it was not intermediate. It wasn't beginner. It was like, whoa,
Straight down.
Yeah, whatever it was. I don't know I know they got black and double black. I don't know what it was, but we had no business there.
Yeah.
I barely survived. I fell twice, but I barely survived. I started catching stride and then boom, 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 whatever. But anyhow, my brother picked that shit up. I mean, it was ridiculous. Hair just flowing in the wind. And it's like, what? Certain people pick things up, no doubt. But if you teach yourself certain motor mechanics, certain balancing knacks, as an inline skater, you got wheels going down the center of your foot. It's no longer skating where you have easier platforms.
Right.
So he picked up this balance thing. As an MMA fighter, as a jiu-jitsu guy, you're off balance all the time. You're never in a settled good position. It's always weight going into one direction, being pulled, being attacked. So his natural ability, being an athlete and doing everything else, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that he picked it up so easy. And of course, the fearlessness part.
That's the other aspect. That mentality that whoever they go against, there's no fear because they're confident in their skill.
Yeah.
Surfing, what gets a lot of people is, your body's not used to the physical conditioning of now you're lying prone and you're using muscles that you normally don't. And you right when you're exhausted and you can't feel your arms anymore, here comes a wave and knocks you right back to where you started. So it defeats people.
Right.
That and then the fear of when the waves are big, that it's such an until you're lying down and you're looking up at these big, powerful waves that you felt on the way out, how powerful they were. That mentality of just going, it's, you have to have it for fighting, and he has it.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Danny. I spearfish. I love the beach. I'm very, very fearless of. I don't know that I fear anything. I know a lot about animals. I don't fear animals. I don't fear the unknown. I don't fear ghosts. I don't fear none of that. But I am intimidated by the ocean when it reaches certain moments. If there's a storm, if there's rough waters, I don't fuck with it, bro. It's just merciless, and it has a mind of its own. And when you know that a rogue wave, what is a rogue wave? A rogue wave is basically a wave that travels same way you see a wave crash onto the shore. Whether this rogue wave is 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, it's just traveling underwater for however long, hundreds, if not thousands of miles. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, formation, I don't know what turbulence, a storm, whoop, it pops up.
Yep.
You can be in the middle of fishing of 2 to 4 foot waves, and here comes a 15-foot wave that just slams into your boat and capsizes you. That's scary.
Yeah.
And I still go fishing and I still go spearfishing, but I don't flirt with that which I don't have to. I can watch surfing and appreciate it. I'll surf. Somebody can teach me. I have the balls to do a 6-footer, maybe a 10-footer if there's no reefs. After that, I'm good, bro. I've almost drowned many times. I don't care to flirt with it. I've been pulled by an undertow twice in a row. I had to walk out the beach butt naked. Just survived it. Trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
I don't care to mess with that. And the other thing is speed. I don't go too fast in anything. I don't care what it is, because if you go too fast in anything, it's just one miscue and you either die or you're severely injured. Skating, biking, motorbike, car. I don't speed in my car.
Speed kills.
Speed kills.
For sure.
Speed, and we're not talking about fighting this time. We're talking about for real. You've come to too many scenarios where there was probably a body that could have been avoided had it not sped,
Yeah.
So I don't mess with that. But I like that you have this about you, that you're adventurous to do these things, and that's definitely, something that you're going to pursue towards the end of your career and moving on to the second phase of your life. I wouldn't want you to think that, well, you're dying now. No, shit, man. You can live 85, 90, who knows, but live it out, live it out and do what you can until whatever happens. So that's good. And you're a great influence on these kids of yours too, dude. I think that's really awesome. I don't know what taught it to you. Obviously you have a religious background, so that's a great foundation, but being that you lost your mom at an early age and your dad with his struggles of adapting coming over here, it's most people, your route would take a different route. Your scenario would take a different route, and you seem like a real stand-up guy to have what's going on in your life right now, man. Congrats to that.
I appreciate it, man. I'm blessed. I shouldn't be where I'm at. I'm grateful to everyone that's come across my life and to get me where I'm at now. I'm grateful for stumbling onto being a fireman. I'm blessed, man. I can't complain. And if I died tomorrow, I spearfished yesterday. I saw my kids today. I saw my wife earlier, my daughter I spoke to. I'm content, I'm just stoked. I'm glad to be here too. I appreciate.
What do you, before we close this out, what does somebody like you tell those out there, whether they want to become a fireman or you just want to give somebody a good piece of advice coming from, you're not some be-at-home, you're not some grumpy old man who just, hey, do this, do that. And you're not some wild, what would you say, irresponsible, new modern hippie. You got your shit together, you're at a great age, and you've been through your lows, you've been through your highs, 2 marriages and mishaps with your daughter, things of that nature, but you're here. What would be some good closing words that you would tell people out there and to try to make the best of their life and what they got going on?
Well, first I'd say don't listen to others. Don't listen to people that would say something is too hard or not to do this, not to that. Listen to your heart. Try to find something that you like, and when you find something, you have to come up with a plan.
Always.
When there's the plan where you have to do A, B, and C, if you stick to those things, then the result is coming. So if you're young and you want to be a nurse, a doctor, a fighter, come up with a plan and adhere to it. Know that it's going to be hard, but don't give up. And whatever you do, always go above and beyond. If your dad tells you to sweep the kitchen, you sweep the kitchen, you notice the refrigerator's dirty, then you clean the refrigerator, right? You can't go wrong by working harder. You're only going to learn from it. So do what you love, come up with a plan on being able to do it, and do what it takes to get it.
There's a great saying that piggybacks what you're referring to. If you fail to plan, you obviously plan to fail. And this is truth, you know? So even if you lined up your A, B, and C plan to become a firefighter, and let's say somewhere around B or C it falls through, something happens, I'm not sure what it would be, and you can't become that firefighter. Well, guess what? You just proved to yourself that you had it in you to follow the game plan. You proved to yourself that you followed the course, you had the discipline, you listened to guidance, and you attempted it. You put your best foot forward. Not being able to reach a certain goal does not mean that it's failure. You just, for whatever reason there is, you can look at it from a religious aspect, from each scenario is what it is for whatever happens at that moment. Whatever take you have on it, look at how you benefited getting to where you're at. Look at what you got from getting there. Okay, now we got to just alter the course a little bit.
Right.
But this course taught me a lot. Taught me a lot to get here. I have 2 fights and I lost both of them. Pro fights. I lost both of them. Many amateur fights. I think I'm great at MMA and I think I'm an amazing coach, but I never became no star. I didn't get to prove shit. I didn't get chalk up a bunch of wins. But what MMA has done for me in coaching and personal training and the fitness world and living healthy and the people that I meet and even all the way up to right now with the podcast, that was all because I set the plan. I followed it. Believe me, I had to redirect and alter my course, not once, not twice, several times, because of bad decisions and because of just coincidental, bad turnouts, whatever it is. But I'm here, we're here, and it's a blessing, however one wants to see it. So, for you guys listening right now, for those of you watching, Danny is a huge example of what I think a bunch of us need to strive to get to in regards to that level of happiness, that level of success. You're not talking like some rich man. You're not talking like somebody who's been in the gutter and this was the hardest thing ever. You're talking about what the average person goes through, but what separates you from the average is, what did you do with the cards that were given? Did you play the hand right? Did you make the game plan? And because if you do and you stick the course, you should brew success and you should get there. And I think your kid Danny is going to be a huge example of that for sure. I look forward to his fighting career. I can't tell you enough that how much, as a person going through all this COVID like the rest of us, and I know I'm speaking for a lot of people out there, we're really, really appreciative of you, all the first responders, firefighters, nurses, doctors, everybody who's got to deal with a lot of shit with this COVID thing that we really don't understand at all. And whether it's a lot of dirty politics or smoke and mirrors, hey, you're still doing your job. You're still approaching every case the same. Doesn't matter who it is or where it's at or what's going on. Each case you're doing the same. That right itself is right there. That's a big example. There's no race, there's no color, there's no gender that's going to make you as a firefighter who's passionate about helping people change the way you approach it. That teaches a lot of people listening something huge, to separate those two. Hopefully that can, this podcast and you saying that and teaching us that can help influence others to kind of tighten that up. But Danny, man, I can't tell you how much I'm grateful for you coming. Mitch, I know you're listening out there. I appreciate you putting Danny and I, together, letting me
Love
meet
you,
this
Mitch.
man.
Thank you.
Huge shout out to Mitch. For you guys listening, make sure you follow Mitch Chamali or Combat Night MMA. Big things coming for them. I know he's got his first event coming back after the COVID incident. It's very difficult for them to put on fights. Also, start following Danny Collazo Jr. That kid's a stud. He's going to be the real deal. He already is the real deal. You want to get on board while you can. We got a hometown representative who's going to fight this weekend. Shout out to George. Let me say it the right way. Jorge Masvidal representing Miami, representing the Hispanic race, representing Cubans. Big, big, big deal this weekend. I know we're talking about it. We get all giddy about it. I can't wait. We all think and know he's going to win. No matter what, he's going to leave it all out there. I know he's going to try to take this guy's head off we'll see what happens. I hope this guy doesn't dry hump him for 5 rounds. Definitely not. But yeah, man, everybody else out there listening, thank you for tuning in. This is the second season. We took a break because of the COVID, much like everybody else. A lot of adjustments, as you can see behind me, to the setting, to the studio. A lot more big things coming out, other podcasts that are coming out. A lot more guests coming by. People like this man right here who's made a big difference in people's lives for so long and can continue to do it for at least another 5 or 6 years before he hangs it up on the surfboard. Danny, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure, man. Everybody out there, take care of yourself. Make sure you show love and peace out there. And stay tuned. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Thank you, Wes. Appreciate it, man.
Oh, man.